Dr. Berry, licensed psychologist, and here I cover the psychological aspects of some court cases. Today's case is Chloe Driver versus the state of Georgia. She is on trial. This is a triggering case. Today's testimony has some trigger warnings for SA and trigger warnings for any cult like high demand group. Jason is going to testify, and it was a roller coaster, and we need to talk about it. I considered only summarizing parts of it, but you really have to see this to get an understanding of just how all of this was. Carrie, I saw you ask if any attorneys are covering this case. I don't know of any YouTube lawyers that are covering this one. If you would like the lawyer you know to cover it, sometimes you can ask in the comments for case coverage. I know that Emily D. Baker, she normally stays away from cases that involve kiddos, and she's been following some other cases. We are covering this testimony from day 2. So today I plan to cover his testimony and then also cover the testimony of a psychiatrist. So it is so Dr. Asif, the psychiatrist. So those are the two that I plan to cover today. Oh, it was a lot. And I'm not sure who his testimony really helps or hurts. I think he seems to fully believe some very out there things. So he is going to mention urine therapy. He's going to mention a bunch of different things. And I was Googling. So I was watching this yesterday throughout the day, and in between breaks with clients. And because I just wanted to, I had never heard of urine therapy before. And so once we get to that part, we're going to talk about it. In the description, I have information about what is a cult. I have resources for high demand groups. During my initial coverage of this case, somebody asked if a family could be a cult. And yes, and I do need to correct. So he was the one that was incarcerated, not Z. Brian Benjamin Z. So I made an error on the last video. Zoe was 100% correct that this individual is the one that is incarcerated. He I got male version of Sarah Boone vibes, but I do think he is an intelligent person, but it ends up getting murky and a little psychopathic, narcissistic, there are some traits that start to come up when I listen to his testimony, and I wonder how it was for the jury. He seemed to minimize a lot of the control in the group. There are also trigger warnings for misogyny, and because the group seemed to have this patriarchal view that almost men make better leaders. They have better understanding of their emotions. It is all over the place. So let's watch it together, and then let's talk about it. I think his legal history could give us a vibe into that, and how he handles being questioned, because I think he very much wanted to control the narrative. He very much wanted to control the back and forth. It reminded me of Ali Abulaban when he was testifying in court, and then he would kind of get upset when the prosecutor would ask a question that he didn't want to answer. So he goes back and forth a little bit more with the defense than he did with the prosecution. I don't know what the jury is going to get from all this. All right, so let's get into this.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give will be...
Okay, so from the very start, it's going to start off a little confrontational from getting sworn in from the very start. Now, I get a person not wanting to swear or not wanting to, but he's going to go back and forth in a way that makes the question of could there be some antisocial traits? Like it's some of that is definitely going to come up. And he's the one. So there was a warning day one before trial started. He had already said on calls that he was going to use this as his microphone and he was going to turn this into his show. Like he had already said that he was going to do this. So I think the prosecution and defense were very much prepared for this. He's going to go into things from Chloe's past that I don't know if she would have even wanted him to be the one saying it. He's going like it's just it. We are going to get there. Just for a little background on this case, Chloe Driver is on trial for the capital M of her 13-month-old daughter. There are allegations that so her husband was 21 years older than her, and he met her. Well, they met when she was 16. They started a relationship when she was 17, and it did seem like she ran away from her family, and she ended up with him along the way. And she did take her baby's life, and then she also attempted to take her own as well. Okay, so this is a really, really heavy case. I got weird vibes from that. Like it's not like I got weird vibes from that, but okay, let's get started.
Be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I promise that I will be honest with you.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have some opposition to swearing? Is that
Yes,
the concern?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you affirm that you will be honest and tell the truth today?
I just told you that I would be, and I will be. I will be completely honest and transparent in regards to the matter of which we're here today.
Okay.
And my experience with this circumstance.
Okay, great. And can you state your full name?
Jason Allen Spillars.
All right. How old are you, Mr. Spillars?
36.
All right. And you're wearing orange.
Yeah.
Are you in custody at this time?
Not in Cherokee County.
Okay. Do you have pending charges somewhere else?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And does it have anything to do with this case?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And the only reason I'm asking you that is, have we made any kind of deals with you or discussed your charges with you in any way?
Actually, you made it very clear that you're uninterested in the charges that I have because it has nothing to do with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm not going to ask you anything else about that.
Okay.
So I want to know how you know Benjamin Ben Michael.
Okay, so this is going to come up later. I don't want any spoilers. Okay, like he is going to attempt to control the narrative this entire time. There will be parts that I kind of skip through a little because, but like we'll listen to a little bit of it. But at some point, it just gets a bit. So I will skip through little parts. But yes. So when we talk about Benjamin, Brian, or Z, those are those are aliases for one person. For Brian, the father of Chloe's child. Okay, so he just goes on and on. Like it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get way worse. So prepare yourself. It's gonna get way worse. Let's go.
I call him Z.
Okay.
And I call Chloe Alexis Driver Kawani. Those are the names of which they were introduced to me as.
Okay.
So just to relieve confusion for the court and for the jury, these are the names that I still call these people by.
Okay.
So I just want to make that very clear so there's no confusion. And maybe I just want to make that very clear. So Z, I met Z in April of 2020 through an associate. And we met because of an interest in trust law and using trusts to
avoid taxes,
legally incorporate yourself to minimize risk of obstruction by the government,
taxes,
like in the forms of taxes and being able to hold your properties and
Trust. So my mom is in the chat. So Johnny Lloyd is in the chat. And I think what he's describing will send you to jail. So please don't try to put everything in a trust and think you never have to pay taxes on it. Like that'll end you. Like that'll have you in a beautiful orange jumpsuit. Like don't do crimes. I'm at the office and I don't have my soundboard. Just don't do crimes.
Assets in a trust and making them safer. And there's a whole lot to that. So, I mean, you know, how much would you like for me to talk about that? That's just the nature of how I met him.
Okay, and that's great. And I'll just keep asking small questions till we get to all the information that we need.
Sure.
You said that you had the interest in the trust law, but how did you actually come to know him? How did you forge that connection? Did you meet him somewhere in particular?
What do you mean? Like
how did you come to know he exists?
Through Peggy Schindler.
Okay, so you met him through a mutual contact?
A mutual friend.
Okay.
Yes. I saw Peggy in Whole Foods.
Okay.
And she was telling me about the trust.
Okay.
But she perhaps doesn't have the vernacular or the capacity to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
And so Z does. So I spoke with Z, and and then Peggy gave me the trust, and I began a relationship with Z from there.
Okay. And you said that was April of 2020?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And so going forward for the rest of this questioning, I'm going to refer to Benjamin as Z.
That'd be great.
Okay,
yeah, to avoid confusion for everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chloe will refer to as Kuwani.
Kuwani, yes.
That's how you
spell that, please.
Kuwani, Ku''Ani.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And is that how you were introduced to them?
Yes.
Okay. And is that how you knew them through the entirety of your relationship and still with them? Okay. So in April of 2020, when you met Z,
yes,
was that an in-person meeting when you first encountered him?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. And where physically were you?
In a park. We met in a park in South Asheville.
Okay. In North Carolina?
In North Carolina, yes.
Okay. Was he living there or staying there at that time?
Yeah, he was staying with Peggy.
Okay. And when you met him, did you become aware of his relationship status?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did you learn about his relationship status?
That he has 4 wives, actually,
Okay.
and that he practices polygamy.
Okay.
Is that?
So he's the one that's going to open the door to the 4th wife. Okay. So we have no idea about a 4th wife. The defense is going to get to more details about that on cross-examination. So we will get there, but okay.
Is that the question? Is that the answer you were looking for?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Sure.
At that time, were you in a relationship?
Yes, I was.
And did you exercise any type of polygamy?
No.
Okay. And so when you initially met him, did you come to know his wives?
Not initially, but we did later. I believe I met Kwani briefly in May, but we really spent some time together in late May.
Okay.
When I went down to Florida to visit them with the girl that I was with at the time.
Okay. So you had a girlfriend at the time?
I wouldn't call her my girlfriend, but
Okay.
you know, she was living with me, and I mean, you know, I guess you could say that I have always believed in plurality as well. That that men should have multiple women, but I was never in a committed. I mean, I was with Jen. She lived with me,
Okay.
and I took care of her. I provided her. She didn't work. You know, so I provided her with food and shelter and safety and companionship. And
those are like the bare minimum. And he is going to speak about things in a way that he thinks sounds supportive and what every woman would want. It gives me bad vibes, for me personally. No thanks.
love, but it was never in our agreement that I wasn't allowed to see other women.
Okay.
So,
and as it relates to Z and his relationship, who were his wives that you came to know?
so their given names on their birth certificates would be Chloe, Alexis Driver, Jessica Lee Kafijian, and Sarah Stiles.
Okay.
But those women will be referred to as Kuwani and Anna, Gamliana, and Shalig, respectively, because those are their chosen Hebrew names.
Okay. Tell me about Jessica. You said, what did she?
Within a cult, there normally is a renaming. Now, there are religious groups and religious organizations that sometimes have a new naming process that's part of a cultural, but it's not like a closed group. So some of the biggest signs of a high demand group or a cult is that there is absolute authoritarianism without accountability. So there's one leader and he doesn't answer to anybody. And he normally communicates directly with God or a higher power or with spiritual, like or sometimes he's viewed as God. And there is zero tolerance for criticism or questions. Jason is going to say that the women were able to ask questions, but I think Z ultimately had the final decision. There's a lack of meaningful financial disclosure regarding budget. There can be unreasonable fears about the outside world that often involve evil conspiracies and persecutions. A belief that followers are always wrong for leaving, and there is never a legitimate reason for anyone to ever leave. There's often harm of the members. The leader often records, chronicles, documents harm within the group. Followers often feel that they're never good enough, that they can never live up to whatever this ideal is. And there's a belief that the leader is always right, and a belief that the leader is the exclusive means of knowing the truth or has to give their validation or approval. And there are common reasons why people join an organization like this. Number one, none of these organizations actually call themselves a cult. so like they don't say, come join a cult. And so, yes, so he did say Hebrew names. So, but yeah, he did. And I think there's some vague biblical, but like it's and he's going to get more into that a little bit later. And so often people think they're joining a group of like-minded individuals, but it's a closed group that has zero tolerance for outside views or outside thoughts. Like what's within the group is the only truth, and everything else is a lie. Individuals that join these types of groups sometimes might have anxiety, history of past trauma. They might have substance issues, and they're joining this group as a means of enlightenment or like as a means to find truth. They're often searching for something, and the group initially thinks that they often say that they can give this. And once you're in the group, you're often distanced from outside influences, often given a new name and identity. There's often control over what you wear, what you eat, what you drink, what's okay, medicine wise. And he is going to get into that later. But yeah. And if you have somebody that that you're concerned might be in a high demand group, the worst thing you can do is tell them, hey, I think you're in a cult. Because because often these groups will say, people often refer to us as a cult. These are the reasons why we're not. Like the group will often use gaslighting to say, oh no, like you can come and go as you please. Like they will often say things, and it is very strange, very, very strange. So we're going to keep it going.
Go by as her chosen
Gamliana.
Gamliana?
Yes.
How do you spell that?
Gamiliana. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to look at it.
Okay.
Gamliana, yes.
And you all called her Gami?
Gami or Anna, she prefers now.
Okay.
Because she says that people have a hard time pronouncing Gami and they question her, so she goes by Anna now.
Gami or Anna. Okay.
Yes.
And is that a decision that she made to change that from Gami to Anna?
Yes.
Okay. Because
like I said, she says that when she introduces herself as Gami, people say, what? God. And so she just goes by Anna now.
Okay. And then Sarah is the legal name.
Shalig.
Shalig?
Shalig. Sheilig. It's a Hebrew word.
Shalig?
Shalig. It's a
Okay.
Hebrew word. Yes.
All right. So when did you meet Kawani, Gami, and Shalig?
Like I was say, I think I actually met Kawani and Gami in May before they left, like briefly at Peggy's house.
Before they left North Carolina?
They left North Carolina to go to Florida, but
Okay.
I can't remember. It seems like I did. So you're asking me, this is like 5 years ago almost. So, whether I met them before I went to Florida, I can't remember. It feels like I did, but that's kind of irrelevant because we went to Florida. Jennifer and I, this girl that I was with at the time,
Okay.
we went to Florida to visit them and stay with them.
All right. Do you know when that was that you went to Florida to visit and stay with Z? And
It was after Kwani's birthday, which is the 18th.
okay, tell me when Kawani's birthday is. 18th of what?
May.
Okay.
Um,
So after May 18th of 2020, you and Michelle,
no, Jennifer.
sorry, Jennifer,
Yes.
you and Jennifer went to Florida.
Yes, we did.
And did you stay with Z and Gami?
No, we stayed in our van.
You stayed in your van. Okay.
Yeah, but we spent all of our time with them though. Like they were staying in a motel at the time
Okay.
in Nokomis Beach.
Where?
Nokomis Beach,
Where's
Florida.
that?
It's by Venice. It's like south of Sarasota.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that when you first met them, they were in North Carolina and then they went to Florida, that they were staying in hotels. For the duration of your relationship with them, was that routine for them to kind of move around or travel or stay in different places?
Yeah, they were moving around a lot
Okay.
at the time.
Okay.
From what I understood, but they had been in, I can't recall what they were doing before that, but they stayed in Florida and then they went to Connecticut and they would stay in different places for like months at a time. I know that they stayed in Florida for months. After we left Florida, they stayed there for at least another month, I think.
Okay.
And they would stay in one place, like a singular location for a few months, and then they would go to the next location wherever they decided to go. I know that Kawani and Z had been in Myrtle Beach together for a pretty extended amount of time in Virginia Beach. That's where they met Gamliana. So they stayed in these places for extended periods of time.
Okay. So you're aware of Florida, North Carolina, Connecticut, Virginia,
Yes.
anywhere else?
Gosh, I don't know.
Did they ever spend time in Tennessee?
I don't think any extended time. I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
So
And so you indicated sometime in May of 2020, you went down to Florida and spent a lot of time with them?
yes,
Okay.
we spent a week down there.
A week?
Yeah. About
Was
a
that
week.
the first time you saw Benjamin with all three of the women?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you first met him and learned that he had three wives, sort of what was your thought process on that arrangement or situation?
I thought that was really interesting because, usually you only see that with like religious cults like Mormonism. Even though, scripturally, even, old Jewish and Christian tradition promotes plurality. Like it's promoted in scripture that men have multiple wives, like it's written about all through the Bible. But you don't really see it that much anymore, perhaps in Mormonism only. And I had spoken with Z extensively about what was happening with his wives in this situation. And I found it pretty interesting.
Do y'all even remember the question? I don't even remember the question. So he is going to do this. She's going to ask a question and he's going to just say whatever he wants.
Because he was providing care, all of the things that a man is supposed to provide for a woman. Like I said, and it was kind of like something that I was interested in because, like I said with Jen, I provided Jen with food, a place to shelter. She didn't work. I provided her with companionship and love, and I listened to her and I was affectionate towards her. Even though I was never in a committed relationship, but it's like the value of having a wife is profound, like the value of having that intimacy that perhaps couldn't be achieved through a non-marital relationship.
I think he likes the idea of a wife, like the idea of all of these things. These are just my own personal thoughts as we listen.
And so Z had basically taken what I found to be what I wanted in life was plurality, but also incorporating the deep intimacy of marriage with multiple women. And I thought that was highly interesting, and I was very curious to see how that played out and how that worked. And so was Jennifer. Honestly, she's like, whoa, like multiple wives, really? Wow. Like, we like, that's different. Like we should totally go hang out with him, So we did. So we went to Florida. Sorry, I'm going to adjust myself.
You're fine.
My niece.
And you said you were kind of interested to see how it played out
Basically, like we're talking about like the social dynamic of a circumstance like that, which I think is really like where most people go with that. When they hear about polygamy, most individuals will question the social dynamic of such relationship, and how does that work? Like, what is the social dynamic between the women, and the social dynamic between the women and the women and the men? I mean, you can see these types of shows. There's shows on television now that promote polygamy and
like Sister Wives.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's kind of like to see a firsthand.
Poor babe. Like, I wonder, because he's been incarcerated for, I think maybe for a period of time, because he only has one wife. He now practices monogamy. We talk about Cody other places. Cody ended up having a favorite wife and gave most of his time to Robin, and then all the other relationships crumbled. And so, yeah.
And perspective of somebody who's really living like that, I thought was highly interesting. I was very interested in what these women had to say and what they were about.
Okay.
So was Jennifer.
Tell me, you said you're interested to hear what the women had to say and what they were.
Well, yeah, I was just curious how they interacted with each other.
Okay.
So.
From May of 2020, when you said that you and Jennifer went to Florida and started spending time with them, how much time did you spend with Z and the three women from May until December of 2020?
Oh, well, there was a lot. Okay. I mean, so I went to go see them in May. And then I broke up with Jennifer. I broke it off with Jennifer over the summer. So she actually never saw them again.
Okay.
And then I stayed in Connecticut at Z's parents' house at the Joyce home in Connecticut in September for, I think I was there for about a little over 2 weeks.
Tell me about his parents. What do you know about them?
Oh, I love the Joyces. They're good. Mike Joyce is great, is a good man. They're essentially, Michelle Joyce is they're very powerful people. Like even, they're like really intelligent. They're highly intelligent people, highly well-spoken about their traditions and values. And they're very warm and open and welcoming folks. Like,
are they his biological parents still married?
Yes.
Do you know what they do for a living?
Michelle sells real estate and Mike works at a factory.
Works at a factory?
Like a machine shop.
Okay. So you said you went to Connecticut and you stayed at his parents' house?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how much time did you spend at his parents' house?
Like I said, I was there for a little over 2 weeks, I think.
Okay. Was he there with the three women as well?
Kawani and Gamliana were staying there, and Shaylig was there sometimes, but her parents also live in Connecticut, so she was at her parents some too.
Okay, so Shaylig's parents are from Connecticut as well?
Yeah, they live it's like 45 minutes down the road in Southbury.
Okay, so Gami and Kawani and Z and you spent time at his parents' house.
We sure did.
While Shaylig spent time with her family?
Yeah, I was sleeping in my van. Again, I had a van that I stayed in.
Okay.
And so I was sleeping in the driveway in the van.
And was it, from your observations, was it common for these women to go spend time with their families outside of their relationship with Z?
I mean, if they wanted to.
Okay.
I don't think, I didn't really get the feeling that Kawani or Gamliana were very, enthusiastic about going to spend time with their
trigger warning for some of the trauma. Okay. So I think he might get into some of the alleged trauma here.
parents,
Okay.
and that they loved their husband and they stayed with him.
Okay. But Shaylee wanted to go see her family in Connecticut.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just like a matter of convenience too, because they're all like staying at the house, and Shayla she went back and forth,
Okay.
So
Did you ever meet the parents of Shaylee, Gami, or
I've met all these people.
Kawani?
I've met them all.
You met all of their parents?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Tell me the circumstances under which you went into their families' homes.
Let's see. I met Phil and Nancy Kafijian in October of 2020.
So I'm gonna fast forward through a little bit of this. Y'all are kind of getting the idea of what this is like, because he's giving people's locations, where people live. Okay. Let's start back here, right back here.
Do you know what the order of the women coming into this marriage was? Like
Yes.
who was first?
Yeah, it
Okay.
was Kawani first.
Okay. Do you
And
know how long she had been with Z? Like as of 2020 when you met him, how long they've been together?
Gosh, I don't know the answer to that question. Years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who came next?
Jessica Gamliana.
Okay. And how long had she been with him?
I think like Kawani and Z had been together since she was like right when she was 18. And then they met Gami a few months later.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know the answer to these questions.
Okay.
Exactly.
If you don't know, then
Yeah.
that's fine.
I'm
but
just
if you
like
do know.
telling you what I think it is.
Okay.
It's kind of like I haven't really considered that. I haven't, I'm sure I was told at some point, but I mean, golly,
And from your understanding, who was the last woman to kind of enter the picture?
Shaylee.
Shaylee.
Yes.
And when you met them, do you have any idea how long Shaylee had been in a relationship with Z?
I'm gonna guess like 6 months or something like that.
Okay, so pretty recent.
Yeah, within the year. It would have been within a year.
Okay. Do you still have a relationship with Z?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you know whether Shaylee and Gami are still with him?
Yes, they are.
They are.
They
Okay.
are very much still with him.
Okay. All right. So when we were talking about the sort of the social dynamic of polygamy and sort of your interest in that when you met Z,
Yes.
what did you observe about sort of his treatment of the women or their interaction and treatment toward him? Like what was that from
I
your
observed
perspective?
a very beautiful, healthy relationship.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
So I think this testimony is meant to, because the defense is probably going to say that Z was this awful person. Like I think the prosecution is going to have a narrative. I think some of this, what he's saying now, he's going to contradict his own testimony later, I think. Because what he's saying now, I think this is what he wants to portray to the world, and he might want Z to have more wives or something, but I don't know that this part is actually true. Nope. So his last name is different. I forget because he has so many different names because it's like I forget. Somebody might be able. Yeah. I was trying to see if Benjamin was on the list if you have that pulled up.
That all like they would wake up every morning and talk about feelings, which I thought was really cute.
Talk about feedings?
Feelings.
Oh, feelings. Okay.
Like they would wake up every morning, they would be in the hotel, and Z would wake up with these girls, and they'd all wake up and sit around and talk about feelings.
Okay.
And how they felt that day and why they were feeling that way. And he would sit and be patient and kind and caring to them.
Okay.
And treat them the way a wife should be treated, with compassion and patience and love. Okay. And even Jennifer and I, we both observed this. I was actually a little surprised at the amount, like the absence of like petty argument and jealousy, because you have to kind of expect that. That's what Jen said too. Like we were like, wow, this is really like they really have a healthy thing here. Mm-hmm. That they're all interacting with each other. They all share the same type of value for humanness. That like there's a real value here that you don't see in a lot of individuals. Like most people act solely in self-interest, and that's not what you saw with these girls and their man. And it was really sweet, actually.
Okay.
Like Z was always he was being very kind to them, and they all got along. Like I didn't see, we stayed there for over a week in the van, and we didn't see any bickering, and we were with them all day every day,
Okay.
like this whole time.
And that was the week
so
you spent with them in Florida in May of 2020?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
When you left Florida, I asked you sort of the broad question of how much time you spent with them between May of 2020 and December of 2020.
Sure.
But after that week in May, when did you later spend chunks of time with them and where?
Well, like I said, I met up with Z and Kawani and her parents at a river in Tennessee.
Do you know when that was?
Gosh, sometime in the summer of 2020. I actually cannot remember exactly when that was.
Okay.
And then I stayed with Z. I stayed in his parents' driveway for a few weeks in September, and I went back home. And then I came to Virginia Beach in the middle of October, and I stayed there for about 3 weeks with Z.
Okay, so now he's just kind of gonna talk about how lovely he thinks everything was, which once again, I don't agree. I don't think it was that way. And then they're gonna show pictures of them with the baby. I think he might get emotional with this. I'll play this.
You know,
That is Jessica Kafijian Gamliana, who prefers to be called Anna now, and I told her the name change is a little difficult for me.
Okay, so he's going to kind of make a statement that is going to make Chloe laugh a little.
All right. Your Honor, this time I'm going to tender States 84.
Okay.
States 84 is admitted.
Permission to publish?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so this is Gami.
That is Jessica Kafijian Gamliana.
Okay. Do you know how old she is compared to Kawani?
Jessica's birthday is June 3rd, 1988.
I don't know why he knows these things. Like, I don't know. So I couldn't, like, I know a handful of people's birthdays, like, but he just knows this. Okay.
June 3rd, 1988.
That's right.
Okay. So she's older. And this is States Exhibit 85. Do you know who this is?
Yeah, that's Shaylee. That's Sarah Stiles.
Okay.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would tender States 85.
It's admitted.
And this is, how old is she?
Shaylee was born February the 8th, 1997.
February 8th, 1997.
I wonder if this is part of their belief. I wonder if something with the birth, like the years, because they have some odd, they're going to get into like what's reality. I think the defense might be the one that brings up some of this. We'll get there.
Evan? How do you know all these women's birthdays? Is that something that's
I have a
important?
partially photogenic memory.
Okay. Would that be information that you seek out about people that you care about, or that
No,
you?
I don't even try to remember.
Okay, you just remember it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the nature of my mind.
Are these two pictures the scene that you remember?
I get chills. Now he might have, like, it might be true that he really does have a photograph, but that's just his the way that he said that gave me chills. Like, and y'all are right. photogenic memory. Like but oh my gosh. Oh, oh.
Of December the 8th of 2020, being at that residence?
Oh my gosh, that is the inside of Jerry's house, isn't it? Wow.
So Jerry is the homeowner from yesterday, and he's going to be a little. We'll just play it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the inside. I was gonna say because I see the picture of Shaylee there, and I'm like, wow, that's really messy. Like, because they never kept a messy place, But Jerry does.
Okay.
So I see that there. That is the inside because like you see all the dirt and like just like it's kind of.
Why is he talking about Jerry's house? Like, why? Why? So I do think that he is intelligent, but in a way that possibly might be, it comes off manipulative to me. And to me, I think he tries to use his intelligence to feel better than other people. It comes off weird to me. Y'all can let me know if y'all feel different in the chat, but
Nasty looking. I was just like, where was this picture taken? Like, because they do not keep an unclean house like that.
Okay.
But Jerry definitely does. Jerry's kind of a slob, self-admittedly on his part. So I'm not trying to,
Okay.
he'll admit that.
All right. Tell me a little bit about that. You said that they keep a clean environment. In terms of sort of the dynamics of the group when you were with them, did they have any viewpoints about like diet or like health in terms of?
Oh yes, very much. That's like a part of the way that they live, and it's part of the way that I live too.
Okay. And what were sort of were you all like-minded in that way?
Yes, very much. And that's one of the things that that I liked about Z immediately was that the way that he cared for himself and the way that he cared for his women.
What do you mean by that?
First of all, like there's like a standard of purity. I've been on and off vegetarian for most of my life. I met them.
If you're eating anything, okay, because we might get into urine therapy here, okay? So like prepare yourself. I've given you all the trigger warnings I can.
And they're vegans.
Okay.
They eat no processed sugar. They eat extremely healthy, like no vegan. And the reason why they don't eat animal products is because of the inhumane treatment of animals. So it's like, it's viewed as like an innocent life. So you have an innocent life in this animal, and Z feels that, we are not entitled to take that life. And that was actually something that I picked up from Z, because before I had just been a vegetarian for my own health purposes. But then he told me about his reasoning for veganism, and I agree with him. It's like one of the things that, I met Z when I went down to visit them in Florida. I hadn't been a vegetarian for a very long time, like 2 years. It had been 2 years that I've been on a meat eating diet, and I got back around them, and I was influenced in a positive way, I would say, by being around them and being around their health again. And so I immediately went back to vegetarianism, and I've been a vegetarian ever since. Okay. Back to my routine. And Jen did it with me too, for the remaining time that she was with me.
All right.
We immediately switched back to vegetarianism.
I like this comment that he's smart, but I don't think he's as smart. Like, to me, if you're smart, you don't have to talk down to other people or be condescending or things like that. Like, and then I do think that he could potentially weaponize that intelligence against other people. And I don't, these are just general thoughts and impressions based on what we're talking about. And the prosecution is going to start to try to rein him in.
Was everybody, during the time you spent with him between May of 2020 and beyond, was everybody a strict vegan?
Yes.
Okay.
And they also used like no drugs or alcohol whatsoever.
Okay. What was the reason for that?
Because it's like toxic.
Okay.
And because it's like it dilutes your mind and your ability to process and be your most pure and able self.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were there any viewpoints surrounding like water or what kind of water they could consume?
What do you mean?
Just did they have any rules about what water they drank?
I don't know that I can speak to that specifically. I mean, I know that, but I will say that reverse osmosis water, I know that Z drinks reverse osmosis water, and so do I. I've been filtering my water reverse osmosis for the past 20 years.
Okay.
Because, you'd like to get there's a lot of particulates in the water, especially, you get the water out of the sink, out of the tap, or avoided at all costs by everyone. But like I say, very few individuals take the time to care for themselves at this like level of impeccability. And so that's something that I respected about them very much and attracted me to become closer and better friends with them.
Okay. From your perspective, was the observation of these practices something that was inherent in them or something that required discipline from them?
No, definitely not. Like Kawani was the one who was like giving me a hard time about eating meat when I was in. She's the one who's like, she's like, you just don't care about the animals, do you? And I'm like, she's like, maybe you're just an asshole. And I was like, maybe
She said maybe you were just an asshole?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're talking about
Kawani, the woman who's sitting right there.
Okay.
And I said, maybe I am, and maybe I should stop eating meat because of this reason, not for my own health purposes.
Okay.
Because of the taking of life and because, it's better to live that way. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, maybe you're right, young lady, like I see where you're coming from. And so I actually went back to vegetarianism then.
Was she expressive in communicating about sort of her belief system of subscribing to these practices?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like it was like forced.
Okay.
It's like it's pretty logical, really.
Okay.
It makes sense. It's like this is impeccability. This is taking care of yourself in the highest regard. This is eliminating toxic waste from your body. This is living a life that's clean and pure without drugs and alcohol of any type, including caffeine.
Okay.
No nicotine, no alcohol of any type. They don't drink at all.
Okay.
So it's like, it's really rare to find that level of commitment of care to yourself. And all of these girls were just on board with it. They were like, of course they are, because it makes sense and you feel better and you feel healthier and you're like, representing something that is, separate from the regular world of toxicity and negligence to one's own well-being.
Okay. You mentioned that during I've used kind of December of 2020 as like a date just because of the incident that we're here for, but
yeah, we'll get there.
How long did you spend time with the group even beyond that date?
Oh gosh. I'm still friends with Z now. I was in Shayla's parents' house for a month in March of earlier this year. Like,
so for the last 4 years, you've maintained constant communication and contact and friendship with them? Okay.
Most definitely. And we've all been very hurt by this, and we've, worked through this together and as the best we can.
All right. So you mentioned that they didn't consume any drugs or alcohol. Are you referring to sort of illicit drugs or just all drugs? What do you mean by the term drugs?
Anything that is psychotropic in nature.
Okay.
Anything that's like no pharmaceuticals, no alcohol, no drugs of any kind.
Okay.
What do you mean? What drugs are there?
I guess what I'm going to get into is sort of like modern medicine or treatment of ailments or like healing practices. Like, did they have sort of didn't adopt the traditional worldview of like the exercise of medicine?
Yeah, none of these girls really had very many ailments.
Okay.
So, I know, like, you mean like ibuprofen?
Sure.
Definitely not.
Okay.
Yeah. I prescribe to these systems myself.
So what he just said was that they do not, because we already were aware that they don't use any, they don't believe in modern medicine. And nope. So Amanda Page, he would do CBD, but not cannabis, or that was all to keep the body pure. It's this pure life that you're trying to live, and no pharma, like they view ibuprofen as a toxin. Like that's what they view this as.
Like I don't.
Okay.
And based on his description and based on things that come up later, I would not be surprised if Chloe's diagnosis is bipolar disorder. Some of the things that they describe, some of the things that are happening, it sounds like manic episodes and severe depression. Some of this also seems to have happened after she had her first child. And she was only, she was probably 19, because this all happened when she was 20. So she was 19 when she had her first child. And early 20, so 19 to like 25 is common to have a person to have their first manic episode. I don't know that that's going to be her diagnosis for sure, but based on what I'm hearing, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the diagnosis. I'm still waiting to hear the defense and prosecution's mental health experts to determine just my own thoughts on, if I was on the jury, would I say that she was legally insane at the time of the crime? In my opinion, doesn't matter. So like, I'm not on the jury, so we're just up here talking. But he's going to try to make it sound like she was all over the place. And it's going to come up later that he doesn't think that she should be punished more than she already has, but that maybe she needs mental health treatment, which they don't even believe in. But so I don't
Take those kinds of drugs either.
All right. And was the whole group sort of like-minded in that way?
They're all for it. Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
So were there sort of healing practices or things that you all did for your bodies that were not traditional?
I mean, like what?
Like drinking your own urine?
Sure.
Okay.
I've been drinking my urine daily for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you tell me, like, obviously that's not traditional in a broad.
Well, it was in the past when people understood their bodies.
Okay.
Now we've become so deranged and diluted and essentially live in a psychotic society of mental illness and addiction to pharmaceuticals and alcohol and toxic food that we have become so diluted and separate from what it means to be healthy on the deepest and most fundamental cellular levels that we would, describe an attempt to achieve homeostasis in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So urine therapy is non-traditional.
We're going into urine therapy. Okay. Do not drink your own urine. Okay. I don't know how many times I have to say it. Now, if you're out on a trail and a snake bites you, yes, urinate, or like if a jellyfish stings you, yes, but do not. Okay. If you Google it, it will tell you that you can actually make yourself sick from doing that. Okay. So he's about to go into it, and it is, so prepare yourself. I've warned you as much as I can.
Traditional in today's modern terms of, our deranged society, toxic society. But it's actually written about by medical doctors. It's written about by people all over the world. There's if you go online and look up urine therapy, there's like 15 books available written by allopathic medicine doctors, homeopathic medicine doctors, written by shamans and gurus from the East, written about by regular everyday people who have healed themselves, who claim to have healed themselves of things such as cancer by drinking their urine.
Okay.
And it tells all about, if you want to do your research, urine is from the word orin, meaning light. And basically it's like when you go to an oncologist and they take a urine sample instead of a blood sample, that's because the urine is more telling of the malfunctions.
But that doesn't mean that you're supposed to drink it. Like that's for diagnostic testing. That's not to then be consumed. Like, no, please don't.
In your body. And so allopathic, homeopathic, and people from all types of different natures write about, the photonic realignment of your DNA through urine therapy. So urine has like discarded nutrients in it, but those nutrients have passed through your kidney and bladder and are now contained within urine, the light production of your body. And it needs to be understood, and this is just like very common programming in the world, that urine is waste, and it's literally an antiseptic. It's the opposite of waste. Your stool is your waste. Your urine is an antiseptic. It's a true sterilant, and it's antibacterial. That's why Boy Scouts 101, when you have an injury or you have a snake bite or a jellyfish sting or something like that, and you use your urine to sterilize and to act as an antiseptic and act as an antibacterial immediately on open wounds in the flesh. So you could think about this as like the same type of thing is happening inside of your body. We're talking about like antibacterial,
So I just want y'all to prepare yourself, because I think on cross-examination, I forget if it was with the prosecution or with the defense, he's going to get into his thoughts on how many people really live in New York. Like he doesn't believe numbers, like that he thinks it's not possible that there are 5 billion people on Earth. So like this is, but I want to play this, and I like highlighting these things. If y'all take a look at my channel, I've covered some other cult-like groups, because these things normally stay in the shadows, and we're all sitting here like, who could possibly believe this? But a 17-year-old girl did. Like, she thought this was true. And and if you Google urine therapy, stuff will come up, but just because something comes up does not mean that stuff is true. And if you are going to work with a homeopathic doctor, so I believe that you can work with homeopathic doctors. None that I've ever worked with has talked about doing what he's saying. I saw a doctor that, because I was dealing with a medical thing for a while, and my regular doctors were just throwing medications at symptoms. But when I went to this homeopathic doctor, they did test my blood, and she put me on this diet for a period of time, and it did get rid of an issue that I had. And because if I kept eating sugar, if I kept doing these other things, I was going to keep having an issue. But like, oh my gosh, like I really could see some of this being, and so that I wanted to talk about his testimony without having to show it, because like, but I think you have to show it, because some of the things he says could kind of make sense and it could kind of fit together, but then it goes way, way left. Way, way left. And yeah, we had to actually see all of this, because this isn't why he's here. Like we're here because of the death of a 13-month-old. Like, why are we talking about urine therapy? Her question had nothing to do with urine therapy, I don't think.
How long have you been engaging in that practice as like do you consider it a healing practice or like a health routine?
Well, to me, it was a healing practice at first. And I would say that the first year, it took me probably like 6 months to a year. But actually, I would say maybe a little less than that. I think for some individuals, they would probably, that would be a healing practice for at least a year. But I was considerably healthier and more fit than the average individual.
Okay.
Like I said, I've been filtering my water, all the fluoride and chlorine out of my water for like 20 years since I was in high school.
Okay.
Like I started these practices very young. I just realized that, it's like, would you like to have toxic waste and heavy metals in your water, or should we filter these out? I mean, it doesn't really take a genius to figure this out. Like, we should be taking these steps to heal ourselves and not only heal ourselves, but as a health practice. So I'd say, like, for the average individual, I think they're the main.
Z?
No, actually, but I didn't learn about it from Z. I learned about it from Peggy.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I started drinking my urine, and after about a month, Z never even mentioned that.
Okay.
But after I had been drinking my urine for about a month or something, I was like mentioning it to Z, and he's like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, we do that too.
Okay.
You know, so I actually know a couple dozen individuals who drink their urine regularly.
A couple dozen. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
sure do.
And as far as Z and Kuwani and Shalig and Gami, did they all participate in urine therapy also?
As far as I know.
Okay. Did you ever know of anybody be forced to participate in that practice?
No, I didn't, actually. All the individuals that I've met, or it's kind of like one of those things that's like, oh, I didn't even know about that. You know, like I didn't know until Peggy told people that Troy Casey, and stream than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so because he's going to mention like a mainstream person that he thinks does the same thing.
The sort of group's collective views on medicine or traditional medicine.
Sure.
Were there any other types of healing practices to either like center themselves or strengthen their mind or their body that you were aware of?
Gosh, I mean, I personally use all kinds of, like, I use Rife machines. I've watched people have miraculous healings from Rife machines.
And what is that?
A Rife machine is a frequency generator developed by Royal Raymond Rife in the early 1930s.
So I think the prosecution called him first just to get it out the way and because he was there when everything happened, and to get the idea, I think the prosecution's thinking that the women could leave. Now, I don't think Z would have let Chloe take their child. I don't think he would have let at all. Like, I do think if she wanted to leave, she might have been able to leave, but I don't think he would have let her take their child. And but I think the prosecution just wanted instead of the defense calling him and presenting this narrative, because he is very pro defense, he does not like the prosecution at all. And that's going to come up a little bit later too. He does not like the state. He's also going to get feisty with the defense as well. And because they're going to start asking him questions, and he's going to get very defensive about things. Really, let's keep it going.
University of San Diego, Southern California. And this man found that, and you can do your research on this, anybody who's interested. This man found that when exposed to certain, that everything has a frequency and vibration, because that's the nature of reality. It's just an atomic structure. And so to understand the fundamentals of science, which we're all taught in school, but it just doesn't seem to sink in to a lot of people, you know, that everything that we're experiencing right now, the air is mostly nitrogen and the matter's it's mostly carbon. So we have a atomic pixelated holograph reality, and these things have been written about from, you know, the 1927 Solvay Convention in physics and beyond, even to Michael Talbot and Carl Sagan, who write about the nature.
And sometimes individuals like him, they'll start rattling off things and taking their voice down as they say it. But it's almost in a way to be like, just believe me. It can be a persuasion technique when a person does something like that. When they're talking and their voice like, blah, 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 blah. Almost like, oh, of course you know this. Like, don't have me explain this. But I think the things he says loud are the things that he's confident about. The stuff that kind of trails off at the end. We're also going to see him go in and out of emotion, and his emotions are very superficial, in my opinion. Like, the emotion's going to come up very fast and it's going to leave very fast at times. And so he also is going to ask for water. Like, he's up there for a long time. Okay. So he's going to be up there for a while.
Nature of reality. And so everything has a frequency and vibration, including illnesses inside of the body. And so this man, Royal Raymond Rife, was able to find that these illnesses, specifically tumors and things like MS and certain other illnesses, have a certain, we're talking corner and inside of your, pretty miraculous about Rife machines.
More dark therapy.
Yeah, please.
Are you aware of them using any type of sensory deprivation or dark therapy?
Dark therapy, yeah, from the teachings of Montauk Chia.
Okay, can you
Absolutely.
tell me about that?
Okay, so I did dark therapy in September of 2020. I actually did it after I left Connecticut. I had like a small bungalow style house, and so I taped off the
Okay. So he's going to talk about dark therapy. And I've had clients do locally. We have this this sensory deprivation room where it's like a pool. I think it's like a salt pool that you can go to, and when they close the door, it's pitch black, like, and you just kind of lay there. And for some people it can be really, really calming. For some people, it can actually make them really, really anxious. But for some people it can be a way of recentering. But all of these things, I think if you have something like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, if the individual is being aggressive and, making attempts on themselves, being aggressive towards others, like, that is where I think you have to seek, licensed help, that doing some of these things, because I think she was struggling with way more than just, like, I don't know, like, I think she needed professional help, in my opinion. And I think all of our opinions, but yes, because there has been research on dark therapy for bipolar disorder, and that's where you have to talk to your medical professionals. You have to take a look at things, but I don't think it should be the only thing. Like, sometimes, so I do like holistic wellness. I like when we take other traditions. So for a client that has anxiety, sometimes I'll recommend that they, make sure that they're getting enough sleep, that they're aware of how foods impact them. Sensory deprivation can definitely be a form of that. And so, yeah, so I never got to do the salt water pods. I heard about it. I have not done it myself. My hair, so I dyed it red. Could y'all tell that it's red? So it used to be kind of blonder. I dyed it on Sunday. So yes. All right, let's keep it going.
the bedroom and the bathroom, and I blacked out all the windows, and I retreated into into a meditative place for 432 hours.
Okay. And
Did he have to say 432 hours? $18 days. Was he? So that's 18 days. Couldn't he have just said 18 days? Did he have to say 432 hours? Good gosh. Why do we have to say give their birthdays? Like, why can't we just say how old they are? Like, but I think he does this to seem smarter, but it just comes off.
was meditation or sensory deprivation or dark therapy, was that something that Z and the three women also subscribed to and participated in?
Z did dark therapy like 10 years ago.
Okay.
He did dark therapy, but at the time when I met them, none of the women had done dark therapy.
Okay.
Gamliana was the first one to do it, and she did it for 2 weeks at my house in November of 2020.
Okay.
She was the only one to have done that at that point.
What brought about her doing that? Did she want to do that, or was she
Absolutely.
made to do that?
No, definitely not.
Okay. So
Z never made them do anything like that.
Okay.
I mean, it's like they volunteered because they're interested in the same type of achievement. I know Shayla did the dark therapy for a very long time.
okay.
She went into the dark for like 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah. And she's will speak highly of it, but she was seeking that. She was seeking, Z didn't say, go be in the dark. It's like, that's not the thing.
And in practice of dark therapy or sensory deprivation, do you come out of it whenever you feel ready, or is it something that like you're locked in even if you don't want to do it?
No, what you're asking is like
I wonder. So I think they're also having him come up. There might be something in his, like in her psych eval. So the prosecution has seen all of her psychological evaluations. And I think the prosecution is almost trying to say that they were choosing to engage in these things. I do think that she was kind of under this at the time. She probably felt like it was a choice. Now she might consider things different. I don't know, but this is a lot.
Personal question about the individual who's embarking on their quest for enlightenment. So you're asking me to, speak to the nature of another individual's personal. I set a time. I was like, I'm going in for 432 hours, and when that time was up, I came out.
Okay. And from your observations of the rest of the group, was that personal to them? Did they make choices about whether they wanted to do it and how long they wanted to do it?
Sure.
Okay.
But it's also, the kind of, it's like, as I was raised in my household, and I know that this culture and society in the modern world has deviated a long way from traditional practice, but my father is the head of my house growing up, not my mother.
Okay.
Like we lived in a house where my dad set a standard, and that's what we lived by, and my mom was a wife, lived that, her dad, like it's a patriarchal household,
So
and my mom was never oppressed, just like these girls were never oppressed.
So you subscribed in that way to more traditional gender roles?
Yeah, more traditional gender roles where the man is the head of the household.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
And Z is the head of his house.
Is that biblically based or what?
No, it's psychologically sound.
Okay.
It's
Lies.
like, men are better leaders.
Lies.
They're better decision makers.
Lies.
They can regulate their emotions in a way that women
Lies.
cannot. And they're just, they're better leaders.
Did you ever see that manifest itself in the mistreatment of
Absolutely not.
Shalig, Gami?
I've already told you how sweet and kind he was to these women, but also at the same time, he sets a standard. If they wanted to go do drugs and alcohol, then
He knows how to work a dialectic. I will give him that. So a dialectic is holding two opposing things at the same time. So he's saying he was sweet and kind to them, but at the same time, if they were going to make this choice, then it's his household. He's not going to have it. And
leave. That was the thing. It's like they all lived this life with him by choice. This was not, you have to live. It's like, if you don't want to do this, if you don't want to live your life, and this is the way that I live my life now, and every woman that I've had in my life.
her like, dude, seriously? Like, no, what? And it is going to get worse. Okay. So when I was watching this live, so just so y'all know, if y'all watch over on Court TV, the live stream, it's the court's rules that the live stream is not able to have the comments on. Okay. So if you watch live on Court TV, they have the comments. And I was watching this all by myself. I was just like, I needed these reactions to not feel like, but he's going to blame the woman. Okay. So I'm going to spoil it for later. So he's in jail for an altercation where he's saying that he just lifted the woman and put her down. And he thinks her son gave her a black eye, but like he had an altercation with her. She ended up with, so like he's denying what happened. Like that's why he's in jail, is because of an altercation. And he's going to blame that woman for why she went off the deep end, and not that it was Z. So the defense says that she was planning to leave him, that she texted her parents to come and get her and the baby. He looked at her phone, found this out, and then he left with the baby and or like something like he allowed the parents to come and get her, but she couldn't take their child. And so she comes back eventually, and I think it's within weeks this incident happens. This is so messy. And I would speed it up, but I know that like if I speed it up here, it might start going too fast. So what I'll do instead is when he starts going blah blah blah, I'll skip through the parts where he's just like, why? But yeah.
This, if you don't want to live your life, and this is the way that I live my life now, and every woman that I've had in my life, in my entire life, has been this way, and the way that I live my life right now. When I'm free again, which shouldn't be too long, I will be, and any women that come into my life now will live the way that I live. We will be clean vegans. We will not use drugs and alcohol in any way. You will be treated with care and respect and love and kindness and listened to. I will appreciate and respect your feelings, just as Z was doing with his wives, just as I've always.
He will respect your feelings as long as you don't say something that is emotional and womanly and all of that. Like, I do think that, so she was 20 years old with two sister wives, and he wanted more. I also think that she was in a state that I think she might have legit mental health issues. She is on medication. We do not know what medications she is on yet. We do not know what her diagnosis is, but good gosh.
Always done with the women in my life.
And
but when it comes to crucial decision making and setting the standard for the household, I am the head of the household.
Okay.
It's pretty simple.
And you said, if any of these women wanted to use drugs or alcohol, they could leave.
They could leave at any time.
Did you ever have any perception that they were not free to leave?
Absolutely not.
Okay. All right. I want to talk to you about, now you said that you spent about 3 weeks in Virginia in October of 2020. And that was with Gami's parents.
That's right.
Fast forward through this
And
part.
then,
Instruction and honestly, I know that these have.
Okay, I'm gonna go back right here.
Honestly, and trying to help her find her way back to a place of sanity. Right? I mean, we use these terms insane. I know that these have psychological terms, and I know that these have legal terms. And so I don't mean to, like, in my own ignorance to what is happening here, I may need you to educate me on which words are acceptable.
Sir, you are not here to offer an opinion about her sanity. You are just here to answer the prosecutor's questions. That's why you're here. You are a fact witness for what you saw, what you heard. You are a fact witness. You are not an expert witness in this case.
Acceptable to use and which words are not. And, but I would say at this point in time, most of the time that we spent together was, trying to help to assist and do correct by Kawani to try to help her with the mental health, the severe mental health issues that she was suffering from.
okay. So tell me in terms of timeline, you said that in October of 2020, that you spent 3 weeks in Virginia.
Yes.
And then where did y'all go after you left Virginia?
Back to Asheville, North Carolina.
And why Asheville?
That's where I lived. That's where Peggy lives.
So his long-winded stuff, he might be losing the jury. And what he's saying now really doesn't mean that much. And so the defense is only going to object when they absolutely need to. The prosecution is only going to object when they need to. And getting professional help was against their belief system, and he's going to go back and forth on should they have gotten her extra help. Like it's a roller coaster.
And it's another beautiful area.
Okay. And where did you all stay in Asheville?
I let them stay at my house.
Okay. So
in Candler.
all right.
41 Oakdale.
Okay.
And I let them stay there, and I stayed either in my van in the driveway, or at my.
If you come to my house, there is no way I'm going to stay in a van. If you come to my house, okay, if there's not enough room for you inside of my house, I will, depending on how close we are, but I'm not going to do that. I'll see you on replay, but it's just, this is tough. We're going to keep it going.
My parents.
Okay.
Back and forth. I also stayed with my sister a little bit, but I didn't mind to open up my home to them at all. I let them stay there.
We've talked a lot about the three women and Z. During the entire time you knew them, was Hannah a part of that?
Yeah, she was there. She was there all the time. She was always around. There was never.
Hannah is the baby's name. So Hannah is the victim in this case. Hannah, they are also going to call her like Nipsey. They're also going to call her that's the other name that they use for her.
At any point in time where Nimsy, as I will refer to her, there was never a point in time where Nimsy wasn't around.
Was Nimsy her Hebrew name that was
Yes.
given? Okay. My first witness.
Do you recognize what's depicted in States 86?
Yeah, that's her.
Okay. Is this the child that you spent time around?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna publish States 86.
Exactly. I just will.
And you said that she was always around.
Yeah. She was.
How did they manage the care of Nimsy? Was everybody involved in that, or was it?
I would say it was more predominantly Kawani,
Okay.
but the other girls definitely were there to support, and Z definitely was there to support.
Okay. Their tissues are there if you need them.
Yeah.
So, all these periods of time where you talked about weeks at a time spending with him and the women, was Nimsy a part of that too?
100%.
Okay.
That's my little friend right there. We grew a pretty significant bond together.
Okay. What do you mean by that? What was your relationship with her like?
I mean, she was like I say, she was my friend. She would always wave and smile at me, and she would come to me and allow me to hold her, and she wasn't always like that with everyone.
Okay.
We were definitely, I was definitely pretty close with that baby, and all of the individuals in the group recognized that particularly the baby would go to me. But a lot of babies are like that. I'm like that with a lot of babies.
Okay.
I come from a large family. My dad has 5 siblings and my mother has 4. They all have children. All my aunts and uncles have children. So my dad's oldest brother. And so, I'm the oldest on my mom's side. I have 11 cousins, and I've held a lot of babies. She was a really bright light and a special child. And we got along. She was, I cared deeply, as I still do, obviously.
All right. Let me go back. You mentioned a minute ago that, in terms of the terminology of mentally ill or insane, and you said, you're going to have to shoot me straight on that. What I want to talk to you about is just observations.
Okay. That we can do.
I don't need you to put labels on anything.
Awesome. Well, if you find me some, I'm just speaking freely now, so there may be points in times where.
So what I think the prosecution is getting at is trying to talk about the dynamics and relationships in the home, because based on his testimony, he's going to say everything was fine until about within 8-9 months of the incident that she started exhibiting some very erratic behaviors. And please remember, a person can have a mental health diagnosis and still understand that their behavior is illegal and wrong. And our legal definition of insane is that at the time of the event, the person did not understand the wrongfulness of the act. This is happening in Georgia, and that's my non-lawyer understanding of that. And so that is where we are. There is somebody who is that has mentioned that the only Hebrew name that they heard was the Benjamin. So Benjamin is a Hebrew name. The other, the Gigliana and the like the other names, they didn't feel were traditional Hebrew names. That's what somebody in the chat said. All right, let's keep it going.
Words come where I use words to describe the state, Kwani state, mentally impaired, insane. Like, I mean, erratic, manic behavior. I'm using these words because I don't know what other words to use.
Okay.
And so if you would like to direct me in another way, I will use the words that you would like for me to use. So
let me ask you a pointed question. In terms of, do you think collectively as the group that you all maybe had some untraditional worldviews? Or not subscribed to by the masses, I'll say.
Not subscribed to by the masses? Yes, I'll take that compliment.
Okay. And I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just trying to get to the root of it.
I'll take that compliment, like I said.
The purpose of my question is I want to establish with you, and I will do it through questioning, the difference between an independent delusion that Kuwani might have been having versus belief systems.
So they need him to identify, because I think one of her evaluators might have heard some of these beliefs, because I think they have some beliefs that there are only like a certain number of people in reality. Like they might have had some non-bizarre delusions, but that were part of this religious group. And it was like a group thing, but it was what they all believed versus the name that comes to my mind is like Lori Vallow, zombies, and like all of that stuff. But yeah, so Z is the leader of that family. So Z is the guy. Sounds like Peggy's involved somehow, and he met Z, and then Z introduced him to some other thoughts and beliefs. He's gonna say cultural group. So we're gonna get to that, I think, on cross-examination. Anybody that saw yesterday's testimony, let me know in the chat if y'all remember cultural group. Like he's gonna say it like that. And so and I don't think he does anything on accident. I don't know if he meant to do that. Like he just, this comes off wrong, but I think the prosecution wanted to call him first so that they could make sure to get out the things that they wanted.
That you all adopted that maybe are a departure from the masses.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I find that to be rather irrelevant to the whole.
Sir, you don't get to decide what questions are relevant and irrelevant. Like, so he has an objection. He is objecting for relevance. You are not the lawyer. You are the witness. You don't get to object for relevance. No, sir. You don't get to do that. I don't understand why this is. No, you have to answer questions. If the defense thinks it's irrelevant, they will object. You don't get to say that.
Thing, because, we're talking about a woman. And so here's the thing. I'm going to lay it down for you like this. When we went to Florida, me and Jennifer, we had like a real curiosity about this. And we're like, what kind of strangeness is this? Like, I met Z. I think, like I say, I feel like I had met the wives like briefly at Peggy's house, but only for a minute. And I can't remember if that's how it was or not, or if I didn't actually meet them until Florida. but
have to have whatever your responses
I'm
are,
gonna go
even
back.
be disrespectful or
I'm gonna go back.
Florida. But I feel like
I don't mean to be disrespectful or
Yes,
interrupt you, but we have to have whatever your responses are be in response to my question.
Okay, very good.
And I think the prosecutor waited this long to do this with him. If she had done this immediately with him, he might have shut down with her. So I think she was building rapport with him, especially because they've already met for a deposition. He's already answered a lot of these questions. So Peggy is just like another lady. Like Peggy's just some other person. My camera might keep doing this. All right, we're good. Peggy is just another person. Just another person. All right. Let's keep it going. But she's not involved. Like, so he brought up because he was asked how. So Jason was asked how he met Z, and Jason brought up Peggy. Like, that's how we got to Peggy. I think the owner of the house, Jerry, I think Jerry might have brought up Peggy too, but yeah, but she's not involved with the actual crime or anything like that.
Let me just ask a narrow question.
Very good.
In terms of the belief systems or the things that you may have discussed amongst the group, was there any type of belief that the world is fake or things are not real around?
Not real?
Mm-hmm.
Well, define real.
Okay.
I could do that.
Do you recall having discussions?
Can you imagine being on the jury, having to listen this, and to have somebody say within your group, what's y'all's view on reality? Like, what's real? Define real. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh. So I think the defense is going to try to say, or sorry, the prosecution is going to try to say this was a cult with these cult-like beliefs, but that these beliefs don't necessarily, that this isn't why she did what she did. Like, she didn't believe the baby was evil, or like it wasn't a part of their, that they had some out there beliefs, and that her behavior was more about jealousy and wanting to take herself and the baby. Like that's what the prosecution's going to say. The defense has a good argument that she didn't see it any other way out, and that so the defense is going to say she just couldn't, she snapped, and in that moment, because it's weird. So just for the people that have just come on to this case, she did this behavior within they were at a house for like an hour and a half, and she goes to the kitchen, grabs a knife, goes up to a room, locks the door, and then does this to the baby and does this to herself. Somehow, I guess Benjamin knows something's wrong, and he breaks down the door, and they try to save the baby. They don't call for her. So they're mainly focused, like they're trying to save the baby. And this is a lot.
Or the group subscribing to some type of a belief that?
No, I asked you a question.
Okay.
I asked you to, or I made it as a statement, define real.
Okay. Was there any belief system amongst your group that like there is an alternate reality, or that what we're perceiving or living is not actually what we're perceiving or living? So
I'm going to answer that with facts. Okay. And we're going to go back to what I was talking about before.
So just with these are not going to be actual facts, okay? Like this, but I want us to listen to this because she heard all of this and believed it, okay? If you don't mind answering, what personality traits and possible pathologies are standing out to you about this witness? So in the types, the personality type that makes for the best cult leader. So the actual leader often has some charisma. He would likely be somebody that was like they're not going to say this, but he, in my opinion, I would not be surprised if he met criteria for antisocial personality disorder. Like, meaning like against social norms, thinks he's above the law, but in a way that causes him legal problems. Because a person can kind of be against social norms and not get into trouble. So in the DSM-5, it's only a problem if it causes impairment. And his beliefs have caused him to like go to jail and probably ruined relationships. How he got with her when she wouldn't answer his question, in my opinion, there was this contempt or anger that kind of came out where it was like, because he's staring down her. And I think he would say that he's gentle with women. I think he would say he's kind to women. He's not coming off kind to me. Not in any way is he coming off kind. And so this is how I see it as well. Let's keep it going.
It is fact that atoms, ATOMS, exist.
Why did he have to spell it? Do we not all know how to spell atoms? Maybe he just wanted to make sure that we all knew. Oh my God.
And that atoms are in it mostly just empty space. Okay. And so they are colliding particles that form a visual and materialistic reality that we experience right now. Now, if we are to define what is real, I mean, then you're to define what is real by your senses, because these fundamental understandings of factual reality are understood by, intellectuals all over the world. Now, whether the common ignorant masses can put them into practical application for their own life.
So this group, if you don't believe like they believe, you're not enlightened enough. Okay. So all of us that don't ascribe to this, okay. So we are the I'm going to just say the word I think he would say that we're dumb. I think he would say that we are the uneducated. We are the ones that aren't enlightened enough to have access to this higher. No, like this is weird stuff. Please no, please don't. I'm gonna like what? Like it's so to me, this is showing that when she was in this group, she had these alternate beliefs, but these alternate beliefs did not include harming children. And that's what happened in this case.
And their own ability to strive to understand and comprehend themselves and see reality as it is. I mean, I live amongst the inept, but to describe something that is mostly empty space as real is scientifically, logically, and factually repugnant.
Okay.
So real would mean that we have our senses and we are connected to these bodies. And like many tens, hundreds of millions of individuals.
I think he's trying to explain this in a way that a woman would understand. Because remember, so he comes from this patriarchal, women do not make good decision makers. They do not control their emotions. They do not, like that's what he said earlier. Okay. So I think it might've been good that they had the female prosecutor and like question him. The male defense attorney is going to be the one that, but to me, it's making him look like more of a jerk. Like, why are you talking to us this way? Like, dude, like you don't have to spell, like if he had said, the way atoms are, like, oh my gosh, I just can't. Oh, but we're going to keep it going.
Around the world, I hypothesize, and I would call it to be my belief that that we all have souls, that there is a soul, that there is an energetic manifestation that is participating in this reality in a body. So
Did-
there's something greater. There is something greater. To answer your question directly, there is something greater happening here than what the inept can perceive or choose to perceive.
Okay. And did Z and Kuwani and Gami and Shayla, did they all sort of share that view? Were those things that you all discussed?
Well, this intellectualism was shared by myself and Z for sure. Like we
Okay.
talked about this immediately.
Okay.
But like I say, I mean, I know several individuals who are able to keep up with these like types of conversations and comprehensions of fact.
Did you all
So-
believe that you had some type of broader consciousness, or I don't know if I'm using the right
I think that
terminology.
everyone has the potential to have a broader consciousness.
Okay.
That did I know it to be factual that I am pursuing that, and that the average individual is not? 100%.
Okay. And was that sort of the tone of the group in terms of like your,
Absolutely.
I guess, broader calling in the world?
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to put words into the mouths of these other individuals. Now we have some agreements.
Mhm.
Now we have some agreements into the matter of what is factual, scientific
Mhm.
understanding. And
And to your point on that, like what were the agreements? In what way were you like-minded with Kuwani, Shayla, Z?
I mean, we're not talking about them. We're talking about Z.
Okay.
I don't think
I
we
want to talk about the collective group. And
Okay, I'm not laughing because it's funny, okay? Okay? This is like releasing trauma, okay? Like watching this will seriously just have you like, oh my gosh, what? So he did not have these conversations with the women. This was what the men talked about. And oh my gosh.
I think that these are women, they want to run and laugh and be silly on the beach.
Okay.
Me and Z are sitting here discussing,
okay.
yes, doctorate level, perceptions in quantum physics. Yeah.
All
But
right.
these women don't have these conversations.
Okay.
They play with the baby and they do what women do, and they be,
Okay.
silly and,
Okay. So
smile and laugh and do things like that. Like, what are you
Okay.
talking about?
So
Like,
you observed them more to be sort of carefree and fun and playing and laughing.
we're not having these conversations. I'm not
Okay.
having these conversations with these women.
Okay.
Like, I don't even know if they're capable of that.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, like, which is not an insult. It's just a matter of fact.
Okay.
And so that's okay.
So just because you say this is not an insult, so it's just like saying, I don't mean for this to come off like, check to see if what you're saying is actually insulting. Just because you say, I don't mean for this to be an insult, but then if you say something that's insulting, that's rooted in patriarchy, shh, like don't say it. you don't have to say it. You can just you don't have to say it. That should have been an inside thought that you'd like deconstruct, and you think, is this rooted in my own like prejudice, like my own issues? Like it's gonna get worse. Okay, like it's gonna get worse, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm trying to warn you all. So if you need to take a break from this, does that make sense? That's what I was gonna say. Like it's really what? Like just like don't process. No, please don't say that.
That's not their role anyway.
Okay.
Their role is to be together and, have like fulfillment in their life from their version of reality that they're experiencing, which is, for the most part, what I saw. I mean, until Kawani started to really have her break, and become what I would call mentally ill,
Okay.
and her suffering and mental illness had completely consumed her.
Mhm.
Before that, it was really just like mostly just a lot of like hanging out and playing with the baby and laughing and being girls.
Okay. All right.
Like,
So tell me, when you and we've talked about like the word insane, the word mentally ill, in terms of things that you saw from Kawani.
sure.
And the reason I started by asking you about worldview is because I was trying to distinguish between things that maybe she was being delusional or having an individual break from reality versus things that the group believed collectively.
I mean, I get
So-
where you're coming from, and like I say again, I feel like that's like irrelevant, because we're talking about a woman who had complete breaks in her cerebral capacity
Okay.
to understand, to where she didn't remember what just happened.
Okay.
She did, and I
So if that's true, so when I was listening to this the first time, when I heard him say that there would be times that she would do things and then she would not remember what she just did, it could either be like a manic episode, because he's going to describe this rage that she would have these rage fits. He's definitely not an expert. Okay, that's why I made myself big on this one. Okay, so I didn't make myself small because we need, okay, like y'all oh my gosh, like this is so bad. This is so bad. But I do think he is, if it did happen this way, he could be describing like manic episodes or dissociation. I do not know what her diagnosis is, but he's also trying to help her. Z might want her back. I don't know, like, if they would ever take her back in the group. She should never ever go back. Stay free. Never ever. Like, this is not what anybody should do. It's not illegal to join a group like this. If you have a friend, I think that came up on the dance one. The alleged dance cult. I think I covered that in a video. Because the parents were really concerned, but they were adults and they're able to be a part of a group. They're able to let the group manage their money. Like, adults get to make those decisions, and it can be hard because it's like, if they're being controlled by the group, are they truly making those decisions? But
I don't think that has anything to do whether she's a Mormon or a Christian or a Scientologist.
And that's not my point, but
Yeah.
to your point earlier, the law does have definitions, and
Okay.
it does relate specifically to certain symptoms or things that she exhibited. So
Sure.
what I want to know is, from your observations, was there anything that she exhibited that you saw to be a delusion?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, it's like, so what you're asking me is whether the verbiage and the information that was coming out of a psychologically unwell individual was or was not delusion by my judgment or my standards.
Okay.
That's what you just asked. So I'm not sure that, there is. Okay, so I want to make an example for you in direct response to your question. There are individuals who, and this is documented, there have been massive case studies on individuals with things like autism, or things like there are, other psychological unwellnesses that we could call them, classify them as mental handicaps, as they would be labeled by society, who have these incredible abilities to give us information that is perhaps unperceivable by a mind. So what we're talking about is frequency and bandwidth. So with some of the things that I saw and heard Kawani say to be delusion, yes, but did I also in her like deranged mental state see, like, it's like, so what is delusion? Like, what, like these questions.
that's why you're just supposed to answer the question.
It's like, yeah, I mean, she was outside of her mind, blabbering about complete nonsense sometimes.
Okay.
Give me
So
an
tell me,
when she would come back,
let's be specific. What was the complete nonsense she was blabbering about?
gosh, I can't even remember specific things. I mean, but there's also like, okay, so we have to really dissect the mind here to understand, because
This is going to get, so I am going to fast forward because he's going to allege childhood trauma that I am going to skip by. Thank you for the super chat. I'm having so much fun with you all. Like, this was painful to watch all by myself on Court TV with no chat, no chat at all. It was so painful. All right, we're gonna keep it going.
there was an event that happened on November 25th, which involved a woman who pulled off on the side of the road.
So this is the woman that pressed charges against him because she alleges that he attacked her. So that's because it's going to take him like an hour to talk about this incident. I think like it's going to take him a long time to actually talk about this incident. We'll play a little bit of it now, and then I am gonna skip through some of it.
Kawani was having an episode, I guess you could say, and this woman pulled off on the side of the road.
All right, let me stop you for a second.
I'm just-
What do you mean by episode? What did you observe? What did she say?
Okay, so we'll begin there to come back around to what I was saying.
Okay.
Because it was only after that day that I heard Kawani mention at all the safety of the child,
Okay.
and that was on November 25th. And
Of
it was
2020?
because, yes, and it was because of this woman who had this psychotic, drunk woman who was on drugs and who was threatening us with gun violence.
Let me
And
back up. On November 25th of 2020, where were you guys at?
we were at Peggy's house,
In what state?
North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina.
Who's Peggy?
Peggy is, who is Peggy? Peggy is Schindler, is someone that I've known for like 20 years. Friend of mine. Yep. I used to work with Peggy's daughter at this sports bar called Hickory Tavern. And
We don't need to get into the weeds. I'm
Yep.
just trying to provide them some context of who Peggy is.
Peggy's a friend of mine for 20 years.
All right.
Yep.
So Peggy's got a house in North Carolina.
Yep, she
You all
does.
were spending time at Peggy's house.
That's right.
Who was there?
Me, Shaylik, Kawani, Peggy, Z, and Nimsy.
Okay. And how long did y'all spend at Peggy's house around
That
time?
day?
Just that day?
I mean, no, we were around Peggy's house a lot
Okay.
You
And
know,
you
it-
specifically referenced November 25th. Why do you know that date?
because that was the day that this
Sorry.
woman pulled off on the side of the road.
Sorry.
And I feel like I think that was like a real turning point for Kawani, which had massive effects on her psyche, which led to the death of Nipsey.
Okay. So tell me on November 25th, prior
Like he doesn't get to decide. Like, so he's trying to blame it on this incident with this woman, but he's leaving out the fact that she tried to leave Z and he took the baby. And like, what? Okay.
you're talking about this woman, which we'll get into that in a minute. Prior to this woman being involved, what were you observing of Kawani on the 25th?
On that day.
Yes.
Okay, so it was actually a pretty normal day. Like she was being like relatively calm and clear, and like you could tell, like I could always tell it in her eyes when she would she'd be in a certain place, and then something would trigger her, and she would just lose it. Like I mean, like her eyes would change, and she would come back, and she would not remember what happened. And
What do you mean she would lose it? What would she do?
gosh, all kinds of things. So this day, she was in it, and she starts shaking and attacking Z and attacking the other girls, and she tried to attack me before, and never the baby though. That needs to be clear. Never the baby, because I would have nipped that shit in the butt. I would have not tolerated that, And I don't think Z.
And even the way that he said that, that just it felt weird to me.
Would have either. Like they so we were at Peggy's, and she starts and then she just runs out the door, for no reason, no clear and definable reason whatsoever.
So I want to know, what did you see? You saw her shaking.
Or just being to this, it's like she's just being she would get this look in her eye, she was absent,
So she had an absent look in her eye and she was shaking. Did she say anything?
She'll scream, and she's like, I have to go, I have to get out of here. And she starts screaming, and we're like, Z's like, honey, calm down. He's trying to, Z was constantly working so diligently with her and being so patient and kind, and working with her, because she would come back from these episodes and she'd start crying, and she's like, I don't know what's happening, and she would just completely lose her mind. I don't know how else to describe it. This day she just took off running, and we're on Overlook Drive, which is a really dangerous road, because there's been people killed on that road before, literally, and pets, all kinds of, it's like there have been major accidents. People fly on that road, and it's known that people go really fast through there. And so Z was I was probably in a little better shape than Z, probably a little faster on my feet at the time. He asked me to go run her down and cut her off and try to get her to come back. Not that we're trying to we're just trying to make sure she doesn't hurt herself. And
what made you think she was going to hurt herself?
Because she's running in the middle of a road.
Okay.
She's running like a crazy person down the middle of the road for no specific.
So this incident did happen. Something happened, and she was running in the road. There are reports of this. I think there's a police report from this as well. And he had to follow her in his car. Okay. And so they're going to say that that neighbor. So it was actually whoever that woman was, they're going to try to allege that she said a bunch of stuff to him, to them, and that she threatened to call the police. And that is what they're going to say. All right. So we are going to skip ahead to them going from North Carolina they're moving to Florida, but they stop briefly in Georgia to just pick up some things from Gerald or Jerry's basement. So that's where we are now.
I can't remember if it was their SUV or their car, but I was driving the U-Haul, and one of the girls, I think Shayla, was driving my van, and then Z was riding with Kawani and Nimsi in the SUV. I'm pretty sure. I can't remember that.
And what about Gami?
I think she was with one of the others.
Okay.
Like these are details that escape me.
Okay.
You know?
But there were multiple vehicles.
Yeah, we were in it was, I know that my van was there.
Okay.
And I was driving the U-Haul.
Okay.
So, and then there was at least one more car. Maybe they had both cars. I can't remember this.
Okay. So 3 or 4 vehicles.
3 or
total?
4 vehicles, yes.
Okay. And you know that Z and Kawani and Nimsi were all in one car?
Yes, they were.
Okay. And you drove the U-Haul by yourself?
I did.
Did all of those vehicles go to Eric and Renee Driver's house on the way?
Yeah, they did actually. We parked in the. They live in like a condo.
It doesn't
Left all the
matter.
other cars in the visitor parking by the pool at the entrance.
Okay.
And Shayla took a nap in my van
All right.
while they were there
And what was the purpose for stopping at Eric and Renee Driver's house?
to get the rest of Kawani's stuff so they could move to Florida because they had found a place to live and be stationary and establish some kind of grounding. She initiated this sequence, and we all supported that to try to help her find a place to heal, where she could really like be still and not have to deal with like all the stressors from the outside world. The Sandra Torres thing was obviously hugely traumatic to everyone, and so she wanted to find a place to live, and they found a place in Florida.
Did what stuff were you all retrieving from her parents' house?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I just pulled the U-Haul up and
Okay.
they loaded it up. I didn't even like.
Okay.
I have no idea. I would say like personal belongings, probably like things that she needed.
And do you know if her
Clothes.
parents were there and they
They were
interacted
there.
with her?
They were there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was the
Uh,
first time that was another time when I met Eric Driver. He came outside and I saw Kyle Driver.
Who's Kyle?
Kyle's brother.
Her brother. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And anything event?
And he alleged earlier, I skipped past it because he's gonna say that she was like essayed by her brothers and by her family, and that they introduced her to like he's gonna make a lot of claims, and I want to see what's in her actual mental health records. That's what I want to see, because to me, so a cult will try to separate you from your family. They will try to get you to believe that things happened in your family so that you cut them off and so that you don't go back to them. So I don't know if any of that is true. And it does seem like in those last 8 months or so that she was in a very fragile mental state, but just based on some of the things I've seen so far. But I don't I take his testimony with a grain of salt, but I do think there is some truth in some of the things that he's saying, that he is reporting some things that happen, but there's so much fluff. It is difficult to sift through it all.
What happened while you were at the driver's house?
Nope. It's pretty smooth. We just
How was
rolled up.
Kawani acting?
She was actually, by this point she had become like even in her normal self, she was kind of like, she's like really dealing with a lot of like mental health issues, and it was really starting to like drive her down.
You described her earlier as like looking sad. Is that-
Sad. Yeah. Just like, like really needing to get like that, like needing some kind of like something, like the stable place in Florida where they could go, and she was really looking forward to that, and everybody was,
Okay.
like I was.
Do you know who made the decision to go to the driver's house to get Kawani's things? Was that something that she
Gosh, I
requested?
don't know.
You don't know? Okay, that's fine. How long were you all at the driver's residence?
Probably like an hour and a half or so.
Okay. All right.
We just stopped in, picked up stuff. She had just been there after Thanksgiving, and then had come back to Z and her family, and with her sisters and her baby, and they had like, things had like mended, and they were going to Florida, and Eric and Renee opened their house.
So this is his description of all of this. I don't know how true all of this is, because I think she wanted to leave him and he wouldn't let her take the baby. Like that is what it seems like.
Up, and Z was there talking to Eric. Like it was
Or she wanted to be just with him, that she didn't want everybody else. That's what it sounds like to me.
just like, this is all after that. This was December the 6th, right before Nimsi died.
Okay, so December the 6th, in interactions between Z and Kawani and her parents and her brothers there, did you observe anything that was abnormal,
Not at all.
tension, conflict, anything like that?
Actually, not at all. Like
Okay.
it was just smooth.
All right.
Like Eric and Renee were, they were there. They're like, here, they opened their home. Z was talking to Eric. He went inside, gathered their stuff with Kawani, and loaded it into the U-Haul.
At that time, was Kawani excited about going to Florida?
They were all very like eager to get to Florida, or like, excited, I guess,
Okay.
as excited as a person who's like sad like that could be, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, they were. They
Okay.
were all like ready to get to Florida and be stable, and they wanted.
So it sounds like she was sad. Like that's where I think this is what he wants to portray, because I think he came here to tell a story. He came here to tell a narrative, and it's his narrative. I don't know how true all of this actually is. Okay, good. I think we're gonna get to cross once they get through the actual crime.
To have a garden. She was talking about having a garden, growing food, and stressors away, to where, she wouldn't have as many triggers to go into these.
Those were the things that she expressed she wanted,
Yeah,
a
totally.
garden and land and to be
That's
out in the country.
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Was Nimsy with her and Z in the group whenever they were there with
Yeah.
Eric and Renee Driver?
Yes, she was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you said you believe that was either the 6th or the 7th?
6th or 7th, yes.
Okay. And then I want to talk about the 8th. You all
Yeah.
went to Jerry's. Did you know Jerry already?
Yeah, I know Jerry.
So this is the day of the incident. So trigger warning for the death of the 13-month-old, because that's what she's about to get into. And so once he gets to the point, because he's gonna say something, and there's video evidence that what he's saying is wrong, and he's not gonna believe. Like he's gonna be like this is how I remember it. Like he's very emphatic about but he's remembering it incorrectly. The jury has seen the body cam of like what he's going to testify to.
Okay.
I had been to Jerry's house a couple times before. I spoke to him on the phone. It's kind of like one of those situations with Z. Like I met Jerry. Jerry is a really interesting guy. He's intelligent, and he does like a podcast talk show that's like really, it's like an interesting thing that he does. And so I had spoken to Jerry for hours on the phone. Like I just called him up just to chat.
So he has a sister that is a social worker, he says. Okay. So, because I think that's going to come up on cross-examination, or I might have saved us. Okay, we're going to get to the 12 tribes. I'll let y'all hear that part.
Gosh, I don't know what time that was. Like, what time was that? Maybe like noon or 11? Gosh, like I said, these are, because we woken up early that morning and gone to the 12 tribes.
And what is the 12 tribes?
12 tribes is like a quasi-Jewish, quasi-Christian cult of culture of individuals.
Let's go back. Let's hear that again. It's a what? What is it? What is it, sir? Sir? What is it? What is it? Culture. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
We woken up early that morning and gone to the 12 tribes.
And what is the 12 tribes?
12 tribes is like a quasi-Jewish, quasi-Christian cult of culture of individuals who, they have like a long-standing foundation of devout devotees. And
So I think this is where some of Z's ideas might kind of, and also, so I don't know if he'd let that out on purpose. So that's where I don't know that he did that on accident, because he comes off incredibly manipulative, and he might want the jury to think, yes, this is a cult. Yes, she was, like, the only way for her to escape was, I don't know, like, I don't know if it was truly an accident. Okay, I have to watch it one more time. So let me watch his. So the thing about individuals with if they do have some of that antisocial psychopathic type stuff, sometimes they can mask some of their emotions and body language and stuff. Not everyone, but sometimes they won't have a typical reaction. I don't know if he didn't mean to.
Jewish quasi-Christian cult of culture of.
Okay, so maybe it was. I don't know. I wish we could see his actual face, because we just see her
individuals who they have like a long-standing foundation of devotees, and they have like delis and stuff like that, and they have like a minha, where they sing and dance in the morning and stuff like that. And
So you all went there that morning?
we went there that morning.
Okay, and did Kuwani participate in that?
Well, we were all there. I mean, participate. We just sat there,
You said there was singing and dancing.
Yeah, no,
and
she wasn't doing that. Neither did we.
Okay,
But yeah,
what were you all doing?
just sitting there.
Okay, were you
Yeah.
communicating?
We spoke to each other,
Mhm.
or yeah, of course.
Okay,
I mean, but-
anything about her behavior on that day at 12 Tribes was she normal, Kuwani?
Yes, she was.
Okay, was she in a bad mood, good spirits, just,
It seems like she was pretty normal. Like I say, her
So this is what they're trying to get to. On the day of the incident, was she exhibiting abnormal behaviors? Okay, so this is why he's here. Okay, this is why the state called him. I think was like we endured all of that, and we skipped a good 30 minutes. I think we endured all of that to get to this moment. I will keep it going.
she was pretty disheartened overall in general at that point, like pretty worn down and just tired of dealing with the mental illness that was plaguing her.
That's presumptive. Like how do you know that's what she was going through? Like,
I'll call it that.
Okay.
Yeah, but during the 12 tribes, she was, just normal Kawani. She did have an episode, an outburst at Whole Foods later that day, where she would just have panic attacks and start screaming and,
and even Chloe's looking at him like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? This was so painful. And we skipped a portion. Okay. The chat really is amazing. Oh, what did Marvin say? He probably would.
but she was pretty much in the car while that was happening. I knew it was happening, but I didn't really see it.
okay,
Like she had got like overstimulated on the road or something like that,
okay.
and some kind of trigger.
Were you
Something.
interviewed by law enforcement in this case back in December?
Yeah, I was that day. That's the
Okay.
only
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
And is it fair to say that everybody kind of described her as acting like herself on the 8th?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I know that she was having like a little bit of a freak out,
Mhm.
episode in the car. But that was it at Whole Foods.
when you
Like,
say freak out episode,
yes,
in the context of what we've already discussed about her being a little bit of a spitfire and speaking her mind, when you say freak out episode,
I'm talking like on a whole nother level from. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
is it something you observed? The
What do you-
freak out episode you're talking about, did you see that?
On the 8th?
Yes.
Actually, I knew it was happening. I knew that she was having a hard time because Z was just like, Z got out of the car and he was like, Kawani's like, need some space right now.
Okay.
But no, I didn't actually witness that.
Okay, so let's just talk about the stuff you actually saw. There
Okay.
was an incident with her in the car on that day where he said she needs some space.
Right. And so
Okay.
I just went into Whole Foods by myself and
Okay.
I needed some food. So I went into Whole Foods, got some food, came back out, got in the car, and then we took back on the road to Jerry's.
Okay, and did he give her some space whenever he said she needs some space? Did everybody give her some space?
Oh, no, I think he was like doing what he normally does and talking to her and trying to, like guiding her back to,
Calming her down?
trying to get her to come back to him, in like a
Okay.
place of like normalcy, like,
Okay.
wholeness.
You don't know what that conflict was about? You
No.
didn't see her?
No, I
Okay.
don't. But I mean, so I could only make assumptions.
Okay, we don't
So,
want you to do that.
Yep.
So on the 8th, when you get to Jerry's house, you said it was around the noontime hour. There's at least 3 or 4 cars and the group of you. What happened when you got there? Where did all of the women go?
Okay, so everybody went into the house, except for me. I stayed out in my van. I took a nap.
Okay. And did you assist in moving any of the stuff out of the house?
No, I did not.
And at what point did you wake up from your nap?
I don't know what time that was.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Is there anything that awoke you?
Sometime, yeah, Z woke me.
Okay. And
Yeah.
tell me
Okay, so we're getting into the incident.
about that.
Well, I was sleeping in my van, and Z was like, "Hey, I got all this stuff," because I wanted to take a nap, and he was cool with that, and he was loading up all of his stuff, and he got all of his stuff loaded. He said, "Hey, go ahead and wake up," and I woke up, and I got up, and I was standing in the driveway, and Jerry was in the garage, and Shaylee and Gamliana and I were all standing in the driveway.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happened next?
I heard Z scream.
Okay. And
Like
what did
this.
you hear him scream?
No, just like this, like at the like this terrified, painful scream, like just like a scream, like it was like shocking, like Z doesn't really scream like that. That's the only time I've ever heard him express any sound that even closely resembled that. It was
Is he typically quiet?
no, he just doesn't, the trauma, the pain, it was just a scream of utter, just so much pain was in his voice. And so I didn't even know what had happened. I had no idea what had happened. But I was outside and I told Gami, I was like, you need to call 911 right now. And so she started calling 911 and I ran inside the house. Shayla was already running back in the house and so did Jerry when we heard him scream like that. This is how I remember. Maybe Jerry wasn't standing outside. It was still in the garage right there at the house when I heard Z scream, but Gami and I definitely were. And I told her to call the cops.
Okay.
To call 911 because something was definitely wrong. Like I had no idea what had happened, but it was a scream of pain. And like
you're obviously sitting here wearing orange.
That's
right. Tell me what about what you heard made your first instinct be call 911?
I can't really remember. I don't remember. I just remember hearing the scream and perhaps like, I can't even remember what happened in between there. It's like, it's been so long. It's like, I don't know exactly what the sequence of events was, but something compelled me. I said, Gami, you need to call 911 right now. And she did. Okay. And I ran inside and then I ran upstairs because that's where the scream was coming from. And then I walked into this like really horrible thing.
Okay. What happened when you walked into the room?
I walked into the room and there was blood everywhere. And Z was, I'm going to talk through this one. Z was trying to give Nimsy like mouth to mouth. Like she had obviously had some laceration wounds to her neck and there was like blood everywhere. And Kawani was laying on the ground and she had tried to kill herself by stabbing herself in the chest and then throat. And she was bleeding profusely. And so I was just went into shock, basically. Like I have very little or no experience, especially with a child. Like, I mean, I've witnessed a couple things, but not like this. And
I don't think he experiences emotions like the rest of us. So that's what now I think he's genuinely upset by this, but it feels like something's missing from some of his emotions to me personally. It's just my own personal thoughts.
So Z's like giving his daughter mouth to mouth, trying to like breathe some life back into her, and she's like gurgling her last breath, and Kawani's laying on the floor bleeding profusely.
Was Nimsy still alive when you went into the room?
She was on her way out.
Okay.
Like she was gurgling, but she wasn't moving, and she looked very not alive.
Okay. And tell me about your interaction with Kawani, sorry. I
went to the ground and Z said to keep pressure on the wounds. And so I did. I went down and I kept pressure on the wounds and I tried to just stop them from bleeding. I was using my sweatshirt and my hands to put pressure on the wound that was on her chest and on her neck.
Anything?
She was saying that she wanted to see Nimsy one more time and she was actually trying to push me away. She was, you know what, earlier I said there was only one time when I touched Kawani, but that was the second time when I was trying to.
Oh, so in their belief system, men can't touch other men's wives or girlfriends. So he was not allowed to even shake hands with her. Like it's a very, like men are not allowed to in any way touch other men's wives or girlfriends.
To save her life. I was holding pressure on the wound. She had blood all over her hands and she was pushing my face away, telling me, stop, I'm supposed to die. And I want to see, and then she was like trying to lean up to see Nimsy one more time, but I held her down because I thought that, I just didn't want her to lose any more blood because there's blood everywhere and all over me and all over our clothes and all over the floor and the bed. It was like a massacre. And I just wanted to try to save her life. So I held her down and kept pressure on the wounds for probably about 2 minutes because the paramedics came really fast.
Okay. So she told you to stop. She tried to push you away.
Yep.
She said, I'm supposed to die, and that she wanted to see Nimsy one last time.
Yes.
Is that what you recall?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated that you were attempting to save her life and that he was attempting to save Hannah's life.
Yeah, he was.
Did you care about Kawani and Hannah?
Of course.
Do you still care about them?
Yes.
Okay. And after this happened, did you maintain a relationship with Kawani?
Actually, yeah.
After she was arrested, did you all continue to communicate with her?
Yeah, she called from inside jail a lot.
Okay.
And we had a chance to speak a couple times. Yeah.
Okay. And do you know for how long she maintained a relationship with you and Z and the other women after she was arrested for murdering Hannah?
Gosh, I can't remember. I have no idea.
Okay.
A while, more than a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you a part of some of those phone conversations?
I was, yeah.
And what was the tone of those phone conversations?
Pretty like mellow, really. Like just pretty, just she's in jail, and we were talking to her and just reminded her that we love her, and that even though this was like a horrible thing, we forgive her. We know that wasn't her that did that. And we still love her and care about her, and we forgive her for that because we know that she would never do that.
And did she continue to express love for all of you?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And have you maintained contact and stayed in contact with Z?
Yeah.
Okay. And have you all discussed that, you still care about Kuwani and you don't want anything bad to happen to her?
That's right.
Okay. And have you discussed that it is your desire that she go to a mental hospital and not be in state custody?
I mean, honestly, when it comes
Did you see how fast that emotion dropped? Like that emotion went from, oh my gosh, I'm so concerned about her, to like, oh, let's talk about the state. Now he moves in and out of like it's very fast. And so that's why I say, in my personal thoughts, my own, like, just, I have not assessed him. I can't diagnose him. Like it gives performance, it gives manipulation, it gives, he might not experience emotions the way some of us do. And so, because the way that he just said, I think somebody commented about it, like on the way out, like the way he just said, like, not that the child was dying, or like, though he just said the child was on their way out. Like this, the flatness of that, it came off eerie to me. It's just me. It's just me. And he didn't do that. Like, so Chloe is the one that did this. Like he has other crimes and charges.
to that, I feel like my opinion is that this woman has suffered enough, with all of her, I can imagine having to deal with knowing that something that you lost control of your own mind to the point where you killed your own daughter. Like, women don't kill their babies. Like, that's really rare, and when you do see it, it's usually a case of like the child is unwanted. That's not what this was. This was not an unwanted child. This was some kind of deep thing being expressed through Kuwani that started, like I say, the trauma that fractured her, I think, began when she was a child. And Z did what he could to help her with that. And so did all of us, and it ended up being
And that's what cults often do. They often say, like, this childhood trauma, like, we will save you from your family, come and join our family. Like, that's a really common tactic that happens. I don't know if she did experience any childhood trauma. I don't know if any of what he said was true.
this really horrific thing. And I do think that basically, like, I know that, I just don't think that prison is the place for her. No, I don't.
Okay.
I think that I think that she's just going to degrade, and these prisons are horrible, and they're just like.
Have you stated previously that you think she suffered enough and that you all believe she needs to be free in society?
That's a question mark. Like, free in society, I think that she should be. I think that it should be acknowledged that in the term of what we'll call, not guilty due to insanity. It's like you hear about people using this as a cop-out plea, and this is actually like one real one.
Okay. And we've discussed that you don't know what the law in Georgia is, right?
I don't. I'm not trying. I'm just trying to speak as much familiarity with it as I have.
And my question is whether you have stated that you think she suffered enough and that she should be free.
Okay, I think that she has suffered enough. Do I think that she needs to be immediately free? I don't know. Maybe. I think that she could be.
So I think the reason the prosecution is getting at this, because I think some of his testimony has been very favorable to her having a mental health condition at the time. And I think the prosecution is trying to get at the fact of, like, is he motivated to have a certain opinion because he cares about her so much? Versus, I think the prosecution is almost trying to, like, because some stuff is going to come out on the defense side that is going to, we haven't even, we'll get there in a minute.
I don't think that she's a harm to anyone. I don't think that she's a harm to society, and I don't think that she's a harm to herself. But maybe she is. Maybe she does need to be institutionalized. I think that should be determined by a professional.
When's the last time you spoke to her?
Gosh, it was a while ago, like a couple years ago, you know? I don't know. I mean, do I personally feel like Kawani should be free? Yeah, but maybe not. But maybe I'm wrong. You know, like I say, I think that should be. I do personally feel that.
Okay.
And you have to understand, like I have zero toleration for abuse of children. I think that the laws aren't strict enough on those who abuse children and, you know, individuals. If it is so the case that Kawani was abused as a child, that her abusers should be brought to justice. And I don't think there should be a statute of limitations on that.
Did you ever tell Detective Cruz in the investigation of this case that woman chose to do what she did today? She took those actions. She made those choices.
I don't remember saying that. No.
You don't remember saying that?
No.
And the person that stabbed Nimsy to death, do you see her in this courtroom?
From what I understand, I didn't see her do it, but Kawani's sitting right here in this room.
Okay.
Yeah, that's her.
Over here?
Yep, that's her.
I don't have any other questions at this time.
All right, cross-examination.
Get ready. Now, I have seen some out there testimony. This by far is the spiciest, besides maybe the like YSL trial. So Lil Woody, I think that's his name. Like he's the funniest like testimony I've ever seen. And I think there were a few other people that testified in the YSL trial. One of which, when the guy was asked, "How old are you?" or like, "What's his age?" the guy said, "I'm grown." Like that was, and then they asked him his name, and he said, and the guy's not his age, and the guy pled the fifth for his age. So, but like this is gonna be just what?
Yeah, just making sure it's not a password that needs to do. Thank you.
Like Lil Woody's like, I'll say anything to not have charges.
Good afternoon, Mr. Spillars. Nice to talk to you again. You and I first spoke, I think that was Friday or Saturday while you were at the jail.
Yeah.
Zoom call, is that correct?
Yeah, we sure did.
Other than that conversation, we've never talked before.
No, we have not.
You never reached out to us to try to speak to us in any way about this case.
Actually, I have.
Did you?
Yeah, I've called several times. I've called your office. I've left messages for you
Okay.
over the past few months.
While you were in custody?
Yeah, I was in custody.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Apologize if I didn't get those messages.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I probably called you half a dozen times. I've left messages with your secretary. I was told that you were the person that I needed, the individual that I needed to talk to probably like 4 months ago. I've been locked up since July. And I have called you many times trying to get in touch with you to reach out and just let you know that I'm here to speak my perspective.
Okay. But before Saturday, or when we talked by Zoom
No,
at the jail,
this
we
is
had
the
never
first time we've
spoken
spoken.
before.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Okay. We had never talked at one point about what your anticipated testimony was going to be today. before
Absolutely
Saturday.
not. No, your questions for me on Saturday are mostly in the nature of my relationship with the group. We only talked for 30 minutes.
Right.
I mean, I've been on the stand now for 2.5 hours,
Yes, sir.
you know?
Yes,
So,
sir. And I am going to talk a little bit more about your relationship to the group, just to flesh some of that out.
let's
Okay.
do it.
But I'm going to start with December the 8th. I know,
Okay.
I know that's a tough day for you. I've seen the emotion on your face about what happened that day.
I care deeply about Kawani
Yeah.
and that baby too.
I just want to understand a couple of things. When you came into the room at first, Z was already in the room, right?
Yes, he was.
And when you came in, Z was attempting to resuscitate it and deal with Hannah, correct?
Yes.
When you first approached Kawani, I'm gonna call her Kawani because that's what you call her. I'm
Sure.
gonna try to keep that consistent. When you first approached her, was the knife still in her chest,
No.
or was she holding that in her hand?
It was
Where,
on the
where
floor.
was the knife?
It's on the floor.
Okay, so the knife was already on the floor beside her.
Yeah.
You didn't do anything to touch or move that knife when you walked in, when you came into the room.
Nope.
Okay. And you said that she was saying that she wanted to see her baby. She was moving up to see Nimsy, correct?
Yes.
And she said to you, "I'm supposed to die. I'm supposed to die." That's what she was telling you.
Yes.
Do you recall when she was laying there on the floor? Do you recall her reaching out to Nimsy with her right hand?
It's really hard to know. I don't. I remember her like pushing my face away, like she was trying to get me to stop, like she like wanted me to stop trying to like put pressure on the wounds. you know,
Was she also trying to get to the child, did you think?
no, I don't even think she could get up at that point. Like she said very clearly, I can't even see. Like she says, I can barely move. I can't see. I would just want to see her one last time. And I told her she needed to be still because she's bleeding profusely and the EMS people need to get here.
Okay.
Based on her injuries, I'm not sure she was capable of talking. And I don't know that what he's saying right now is true. And he turns we'll keep it going.
I'm not going to make you watch the body cam videos from the officers that came into the scene. The jury's already seen those in this case. If I tell you that one of the prior officers in this case testified that Kawani was reaching out and holding Nimsey's hand, do you have any reason to dispute that could have happened that morning?
Well, it couldn't have been that she was touching her because there's too much distance between them.
Okay.
Like there was too much distance there.
So that's yes. So the baby, yes. Nipsey is Hannah, the child. So he's now disputing the video evidence that we have. Because remember Adams and Light, and I don't know how credible the jury is going to find him.
Okay. Like the baby was on the bed and Z was trying to like breathe into her because she was gurgling blood and there was blood everywhere. But
if an officer says that he saw that, you don't have any reason to dispute what that officer.
I will dispute that.
Okay.
I'll 100% dispute that.
Okay. Have you ever seen the body cam video in this case?
No, I haven't.
Okay. All right. Let me get you back to.
So you're saying, let's be clear one more time. You're saying that Kawani's body was touching Nimsey's body, and that you're saying that if an officer said that, would I dispute it?
I'm not asking you if their bodies were touching each other. I'm asking if you recall her reaching out and touching her with her arm, with her right hand.
Yes, that's what you're saying.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying, touching the baby with her hand.
Yeah.
No, that's impossible. There's too much distance between them.
Okay. All right.
There's no way that she could have been touching the baby.
Okay. Now, you did say in response to some questions there by Ms. Gropper that she was asking you about what you thought should happen to Kawani from this case.
Sure.
You understand that what your belief is about that doesn't truly mean a lot. The jury gets to decide that, correct?
Sure. But I mean, I feel like it's a fair question.
Sure. Because you saw her.
So even the defense is clarifying that the jury is the one that gets to make this decision. Because I think Jason wanted to be favorable, I think he thinks he's helping her, but he is, in my opinion, he is not helping. Like, to me, he's showing just how the things this group believes is cult-like. Like, it's I'm just gonna press play because I don't have words. Like, if you don't get that this is strange and odd, like I can't.
Consistently for about 5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
And you have testified to us pretty extensively about a significant change in her mental state from when you first met her in April or May of 2020 until December of 2020, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Your testimony is, and I think I wrote this down right, you know that wasn't her that did that.
So I just want to say he was called by the state. It's my understanding that he was on the witness list for both. So the state presents their case first. The state is the one that called him. And so that is where we are. But I think the state wanted to get to the jury that Kawani's beliefs or Chloe's beliefs, that it was part of this weird, like it was part of this group, but none of those beliefs involved harming a child. Like, I think that's what, and that on that day, to everybody else, it seemed like a normal, typical day. She wasn't in the midst of an episode at that moment. Like, nobody saw those signs. I think that's what the prosecution is trying to get at. Because typically somebody that has a break with reality, a true break, that would be a legal break, they are often not going to hide it. They're often not going to think that they're going to go to jail, or because they might feel justified in what they did, or it's just a person that has that true break. The ones that I've seen be found not guilty by reason of insanity, that's not substance induced or anything like that. That's just what I've personally seen.
You know that wasn't Chloe Driver that did this, right?
Yes.
You know that because everything that you ever saw her do with that child was what you would expect for a loving mother, right? You know that because of what you saw in that child's eyes and face when that child saw her mother, right?
Yes.
You described her earlier in your testimony that the child was bright and full of life, right?
Yes.
And she got that personality. She got that as a reflection from the treatment she got from her
From
mother.
the love of her parents.
Yeah, Z2, right?
Z2.
But from her mother.
Yeah.
You said that her mother was particularly the one responsible for.
So I do think Chloe's reaction is legit. Like, I think she's honestly, because even her trying to hide, I think this seems performative to me from him. It just does. It just does. But it is what it is.
Most of the day-to-day motherly things with the child, changing the diapers, right?
Yeah, I mean, Z changed some diapers too, obviously, but
He doesn't have any emotion. There was no emotion there.
she was.
But she breastfed this child.
Yes,
every
she
time,
did.
right? They did not believe in bottle feeding or
No,
formula.
she breastfed her child.
Right.
Yes, she did.
So she was up all night feeding the child when the child needed to be fed.
She was
right?
an excellent mother. I've already said that.
Yeah. So you know,
She loved her baby.
you know from being with her that, as you just said, there's no good reason why a mother would ever kill her child. You know, in this case, that there was no good reason why she would ever kill her child, right?
No.
Okay. So just taking you back to May when you first met her,
For him, I think.
the first time that you saw and understood the dynamic of this group relationship that Z was in.
Right.
Okay.
I also think a part of his religious or like his culture belief is that men manage their emotions. So he may also stuff and not want to express emotion, but you know, he might say that women are the emotional ones and men aren't. Like those are his culture beliefs.
Yeah.
When you had met him previously in Asheville, you talked about the trust and that you didn't really understand the group dynamic at that point in time.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. It was, that's kind of hard to, that's why I was so interested in their group and in their family. And so was Jennifer, this girl I was with at the time. And, it's, you can talk to someone, but you need to see that type of social interaction in person.
You'd never had an experience relationship-wise like that, right? You never had a polygamous plurality relationship.
I've had multiple women that I've balanced. I've done that my whole life, really, had multiple girlfriends, if you will. But no, I had never taken the time to introduce them to each other and be like, hey, we're a family now. I'm going to actually be devoted to you as a husband and show you that level of commitment and care and love and appreciation and all these things. Even though I was never really I always showed those things to the women in my life, but never to the level of calling them my wife.
Right.
So like I say, when I heard that, I thought it was very interesting because it was kind of what I had always done anyway with plurality in women.
I wonder if he's kind of jealous of because I don't know but because I don't think he has the charisma Z has to have multiple. I hope I don't. I'm sorry.
But actually having the intimacy and the fulfillment of having a wife, which I had always had missing from my life and I really wanted. But I never wanted to just settle for one woman. And Z kind of seemed, it was just like, oh, if it just like a light clicked on in my head, I was like, oh, so you have multiple wives. That's how you do that. Okay.
And like I said, you never had that relationship with multiple women in a wife type setting.
No,
right?
sir. I have not.
So you were curious as to how that existed.
Yes, sir.
And whether or not these people all got along with each other.
Right.
Was the relationship built towards each other, whether infighting amongst some of them, right?
Yeah.
And when you first met them in May, you found that everything was, they all agreed. They got together. They got along.
They really
worked
did.
together, right?
Yeah, it was beautiful. I was inspired by it. And even when we left, I told Jennifer, I was like, I'm about to change my perspective on,
Let me show you. We're going to mark this as Defendant's Exhibit 1, Judge.
The prosecution is going to get mad because the defense is going to put up exhibits that are not numbered, that they do not know what he's about to put up, that they can't object to before it goes up. So I don't know if it's here, but the prosecution is going to get upset about this.
This is a photograph, I believe, that was taken off of Kuani's phone by law enforcement. You see that photograph on your screen there, sir?
Yeah.
Do you recall an instance like that in May, June at the
I mean,
beach?
that was pretty much like their life. Look at how happy Kawani is. You know, like look at her face. Look at the baby. You know, like these are just like they're just like happy people, like just living their lives.
Does that seem to be a fair and accurate reflection of things that you exhibited with them at that time in May?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And again, Judge, let me show you. We'll call this one Defendant's Exhibit 2, and I'm going to see if I can.
There's Kawani holding and feeding her baby on the beach. You know, like
zoom
look at
in
her
on it
face,
to make it a
like-
little bigger. Appears in that photograph, she's actually breastfeeding the child. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Same photograph, time frame. They're on the beach, obviously. Does that appear to be a representation of what they would have been like in May or June of
Yeah.
that year?
yeah. I mean, like
Let me know if it is buffering a lot. So let me know, because I can turn off. Let me know. Sometimes my internet gets mad at me. So chat, let me know if it is buffering, and I can make sure to close out some things, and that should, okay, good. It's not buffering. Good, good. All right. Okay, good. All right. So we will keep it going.
I say, when I left, I told Jen, I'm like, I'm doing this now. I'm gonna have multiple wives one day. And she was like, I was like, so what do you think about that? And she's like, actually, she was like, okay. She was like, so I told her, I'm like, I'm gonna bring some other women into like this relationship, because she was living with me at the time. Even though I told her, you know, and I was very clear about, you know, that it was more of like an open type relationship, you know, that I was not like fully committed to her, that I wouldn't see other women. But she wasn't like fully committed to me either. It was more like an open relationship, kind of that we were both okay with that circumstance.
Yeah.
We did, even though we did live together.
Okay.
And I told her, I was like, man, we should move another girl in. And she's like, if it could work like that, then okay. You know, like this is a woman who 24 hours before, she's like, I don't know about this. We have to go like see these people and see how this works. To, you know, we get down there and we say, she's like, okay.
That
She's like,
ultimately did not work out though with you and Jen.
no, it didn't.
Right.
You know, that's a whole different story. So
Judge, I will move to tender Defendant's Exhibits 1 and 2 at this time.
Any objection?
No objection.
But yeah, Jen said, you know, if it could be like that, if it could be the way that they are with each other, and they're not like jealous, fighting, bickering little women, you know, who have these.
The way he talks about women, I'm not sure. Okay, I'll say this like this. In my personal thoughts and opinions, the way that he talks about women, it's more as though he sees them as objects and not actual people, like not actual individuals with their own thoughts, wants, needs, and desires. Like, and I personally get some like dark triad kind of vibes, like, but without, because he doesn't seem to have charisma to me, but definitely he thinks he's the best, the smartest person in the room. And he definitely has, in my opinion, some misogynistic type things. And I don't think he views women, like I think he views women as individuals to be dominated and controlled, and that need to be ruled by men because they would be nothing without men. Like ugh. I'm sorry. So that's how I feel. I make noises when I run out of words. I don't. Ugh. Those are just my own personal thoughts.
You know, like all of this stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like the things that you would expect, like the jealousy and fighting and bickering between women. It was not there.
Okay.
And we stayed for a week and we saw them in and out. And you know, like when you're around somebody for a week straight, like we were really observant of them. So yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about how their family was just working in this beautiful kind of way.
All right. And then your next interaction with them together was roughly in September when you went to Connecticut.
Well, I saw them a couple of times. Like I said, I remember seeing them. I saw Z in Asheville. I met her for lunch at the 12 Tribes one time over the summer. I met Kawani and her parents at the river one day in June. Yeah.
But the next extended time that you spent with them was September up at Z's parents' house.
Yeah, I need to use this real quick. My nose is yes, the next time I was with them extensively was in September at Z's parents' house.
I don't think they trust him because he is in like full shackles. They did not. He is in full shackles. They do not trust him at all. Okay.
Mike and Michelle Joyce's house in Bristol, Connecticut.
I'm showing you now.
I'm sorry. I'm going to object to publishing all the exhibits before they've been admitted. I don't know what else he intends to get into. The state's previously provided an exhaustive list of all of our exhibits, but I have no idea what he has on there.
It's just photographs of her and the child during the time frame that we're
We
talking
just
about.
review whatever he's seeking to admit before we publish it to the jury.
I just don't have them printed out. They're just
It's the same ones that were used during the meeting. Oh, okay. No objection to those.
All right. You withdraw your objection?
I withdraw my objection if
All
they're
right.
the same ones during opening.
All right.
this photograph, Mr. Spillars, I believe, was taken in August, so maybe slightly before your visit with them in September. But does that seem to accurately reflect how you would have seen Kawani and Ninzi at that period of time?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, I'll mark that as this defendant's exhibit 3, and we'll move to tender that. When you were in Connecticut, you were there for about 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And I think you said that you stayed in your van for the most part. You slept in your van while you were there.
Yeah.
Kawani, Z, Ninzi were in his parents' home.
Yeah.
Right. And at that point in time, his parents knew her, knew the other women that were involved, right? They were well aware of the relationships that he had.
Yes, they were.
Okay. Did he ever talk to you about a time in which he took Kawani back to his house in Connecticut before the child was born, when they first met, and he had her living in his parents' basement?
Yeah, I do remember him talking about that, like briefly, like that's how they met or something like that. That's when they first met.
You recall him telling you that he kept her in the basement because he didn't want his parents to know about her at that time, and he
No.
took food down there to her?
Definitely not. And they definitely knew that she was there. That's ridiculous.
Okay, this would have been not September of 2020. I'm talking about before that.
Oh
when
yeah,
they
but I
first
mean,
met.
dude, Michelle Joyce is not the kind of lady who has somebody in her house and doesn't know about it. That's impossible.
Okay.
So, like,
I think what the defense is trying to get at is that because Z was 38 years old when he met 17-year-old Chloe. Okay. Chloe was 17, well, not met, when they started a relationship. And I think the defense is trying to get at that Z might have hid her from his parents when she was still underage. I think that's what the defense is trying to get at. And he's adamantly like, oh no, there's no way she could have been in the house without his parents knowing. I think that's what the defense is, but he's not going to admit to anything that would make Z look bad. I think he's more protective of Z than he is of Chloe.
like that's just not our thing.
Okay.
Like the idea that, that they didn't know that he was keeping someone in her house. Like, yeah, right. Have you met her?
I have not.
Okay. Well, then you would know. Like, there's no way that's like,
Okay.
yeah. But no, I never heard him talk about that. But that just strikes me as like, if you knew the Joyce family, like,
You don't think that would have happened?
I don't think that's possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in September, though, in Connecticut, your testimony is that you begin to see her, a change in her personality, a change in her.
Yeah, a radical
self.
change.
Yeah.
She struck Z when I was there. And that was just like so like, just out of character. Like,
This is when these episodes were starting in which she would basically zone out or be in a catatonic type state.
definitely.
Is that right?
Yes.
When she was in these states, she would come out of them and not have any recollection of what just happened. Is that right?
Yes, sir. And I witnessed this many times.
Yes.
Especially because it developed even more when I, into October and through November, it was severe. I've never seen anything like it.
Was she telling you the type of things that she was hearing or seeing during these delusional spells? Would she tell you that she was hearing voices?
Well, not really like that. No, she was more expressing it as just like this, like aggressive, manic, like thing. She would talk about.
And when he says manic, I don't know that he knows what mania actually is, but from what he describes, I, as a professional, it sounds like it could, but I would have to have more information, because it could also be a trauma response, or it could be like postpartum psychosis. Like I don't have enough information to say exactly what it is, but yeah, those were just some of my thoughts as we listened.
She was talking about all kinds of stuff, but it was like really hard to and I was listening attentively and with care and respect for Kawani when she was expressing these things. And it's like certain things that she would say kind of made sense sometimes. Like she would talk about like gosh, I can't even remember these things specifically. Like she would talk about like evil in the world and like, you know, like which there is a lot of evil in the world,
Sure.
you know, so it's not like everything that she said, but some of the things that she was saying were completely like,
But she was expressing to you that this was evil that she felt like was directed at her, right?
definitely.
Not something that she was just talking about.
But just like an ambivalent force in the room as well, too.
Yeah.
Like not just like an indirect, like just the presence of evil.
Yeah, she sensed this.
Yes.
It's not like she was mad at the war in Israel or something. She was feeling a presence of a body or a presence of an entity that was coming towards her or directed towards her, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, she was.
This was so profound to you when you saw her in September and such a difference in how she was in May. You recall talking to Z about this and telling him that, you know, she needed to get some help?
Yeah, I did actually. I was like, dude, you know, I don't know. But I mean, I was trying to say like, maybe she should go to an institution or something like that. But at the same time, I've never been to one of these institutions.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And Z has a lot of familiarity with these things.
You said you told us in your conversation.
So this is where, to me, Z is the leader. Z is the one that kind of tells, because he always defers to Z. And also he views Chloe as like, almost like, so I'm going to say it's not what it is, but I'm going to say how they view it. Views Chloe almost as like Z's property or like his dependent that he has to take care of. Like that's how they are viewing relationships based on what he's saying.
We had with you Saturday. Your sister has some relation to social work, right?
My sister has her master's degree in social work and behavioral sciences, and she works as a counselor. And you know, I have a very close relationship with my sister, so we talk about these things. And I pride myself in being an intellectual. And
to both of my brothers, if you ever keep my name out your mouth. If you do not mention my name. I do not exist if you end up in a situation like this.
And having the ability for divergent thinking and to, you know, gain objective understanding for concepts rather quickly, you know, so I've always excelled and been in like, you know, the top of my class kind of guy. So
it's giving, I got straight A's in high school. That's where like the Sarah Boone thing came for me.
I speak with Chelsea. My sister's name is Chelsea. I speak with Chelsea, and I've spoken with her about these things. And, you know, we spoke a lot about Kawani when this was happening with her.
And I'm not going to hold you to an expert in psychology by any means or psychiatric issues, but you believed, and I think you even told Detective Cruz this in your interview, that you believe that, in fact, Kawani was suffering from specific disorders such as bipolar or schizophrenia, that type of thing, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do think that some kind of individual could, but it's like these things came on very suddenly. So it's like I was telling the state earlier in my testimony, and that's why I didn't really push it too far when Z said that he didn't want her to be institutionalized, because this wasn't like how she was all the time. So perhaps I'm incorrect, you know, because to diagnose somebody with schizophrenia means that they have schizophrenia, not that they have schizophrenic-like episodes.
So, as he said, do not listen to what he says, because an individual that has schizophrenia can have periods of time that are a little bit more lucid, a little less lucid. There will be some things going on in the background a lot, but he does not have a great understanding of mental health. Okay, he does not.
Do you understand the differential here? It's like, that's how I'm viewing it now. And honestly, you know, at that time, you know, I had just witnessed Nipsey breathe her last breath. You know, I'm trying to save Kawani's life. So, you know, it's like, I don't even really remember that interview with Tiana Cruz myself. There was like a lot of trauma.
You were still in shock to some degree.
Dude, I mean, I'm still traumatized by this to this day.
Yeah.
You know, like this is like a huge thing for me to deal with.
But Z's response to you reaching out to him about what you were seeing and your concerns, he did not want her treated.
He didn't want to put her, well, his expressions were very clear. He didn't want to put her in an institution where she would get less care and less time and consideration than what she was getting from him and from her sisters.
He didn't want pharmaceuticals.
And he didn't want her to become some brain dead pharmaceutical girl, you know. And
he didn't want that for Kawani, but he also didn't want that for Nimsey, right?
Thank you. Yes, that's where I was going. Like, you know, she's breastfeeding this baby.
Yeah.
And, you know, he didn't want that. And He didn't want her to be institutionalized because she has this, he was trying to keep their family together, man, and I respected him for that. And I respected him for trying to do it organically and without drugs.
So let's talk a little bit about this.
Do we see the, like, but what if she could have, because I wonder if this group, there are medications that individuals can be on and they can safely nurse. So I work with individuals that are on anxiety or depression medications, but he I don't know that they would believe the doctors. And you should probably, like, I will just keep it going. I think we're all on the same page.
CBD here. That was State's Exhibit 87. I think when you testified earlier, I thought you testified that you had bought that from a store, but maybe I misunderstood. You got it from a friend of yours.
I bought it from an individual, a woman who's in her 50s who works in the CBD industry.
Is her name Kylie Cross?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So
Kwani was taking, or Chloe was taking CBD, and it was, I guess some of it was his, and she felt more paranoid. I think the allegation is that she felt more paranoid while she was on it. That's why every person, if they're going to take something, they should always discuss it with their medical doctor. If they have reactions, if they have a bad experience, talk with your providers.
This appears like in this jar, it appears to be something that
I'm going to fast forward through this part because they're just going to go over how it's legal, how it's not. And so, all right.
was you didn't think that it had much of a effect on you.
It really didn't.
Using it for your shoulder, I think.
Yeah, I got a bad, I have a bad neck and a bad rib. I did jujitsu for years and years.
Like, he just throws out how awesome he thinks he is all the time.
And it didn't really give you any relief.
It did in a way. It did a little bit, but I discontinued my use of CBD.
You didn't have any side effects from it, such as delusions or paranoia or concerns like that, right?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. But you definitely saw what you believe was an increase in paranoia and delusions from Kuwani that occurred at the time she was taking this substance as well.
Yes,
right?
sir, I did.
Did you believe that the CBD or whatever this stuff was causing her symptoms to get worse?
Not at first. When she first started taking it, I gave it to him in September. And then that only progressed until that was way later. And she was the one who was saying that, because I don't, her delusions, it was like, it's hard for me to differentiate, was this actually, but she was the one who started saying that.
She was telling you that she was having concerns that this substance was causing.
She was telling us, and then Z started to pull it back and stop giving it to her.
Okay. Ultimately, and you talked a little bit about this earlier, the nature of this relationship and the control, and I don't mean control in a necessarily a negative way, but the patriarchal structure of this family, right?
Yes, sir.
Ultimately, Z had the final decision about whatever was happening in his family, right?
I mean, yeah, for the most part, but these women were heard. It's not like these were not oppressed, silenced women, and by no means. In fact, very much the opposite. Like I say, he wakes up every day. It's like, we want to talk. He wants them to talk. They were encouraged to speak. They were encouraged to speak their minds. They were encouraged to tell how they were feeling, so he could be a better man.
But if Z felt like the CBD was something he wanted to have her use, he would be the one to say, let's use that.
Well,
right?
he was vehemently opposed to it at first, but she talked him into it.
And he did agree to it.
And he finally agreed to it. Yeah.
But if he had not agreed to that, she would not have been able to use it.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the nature of a relationship, unless two people are in agreement. Yeah.
Okay.
I
So, so my husband and I, the way we view our relationship is that it is a partnership. And right now I take different multivitamins and things. And if there was something that my husband didn't want me to take, but I thought, so if he didn't want me to take my iron, but I'm slightly anemic, and he's like, oh, just eat more lima beans. Lima beans have a lot of iron, but I'm not going to eat lima beans. I need to take my gummy iron. What? So I get to choose. I have bodily autonomy. My husband does not get to choose. But I don't think he even gets how this is. She did have the child in a hospital. They left before they could get a birth certificate. So I wonder, because medically, maybe they didn't have like a midwife, somebody, because after you have a baby, you have to cut the umbilical cord. You have to, like, that's a process. So she did give birth in a hospital. It might have been more of a midwife situation. She definitely, I'm thinking she did it 100%, like no medicine, nothing like that. And yes, good gosh, let's keep it going.
I don't think that he would have, just like he didn't want her to use pharmaceuticals, you know, like I said, she's breastfeeding a child.
Did you ever tell him that he needed to stop giving her the CBD?
No, I did not.
Never.
No, I didn't.
Now, again, this time frame of September when you're in Connecticut, October when you're in Virginia with them, despite the concerns you're seeing for her declining mental state, her treatment of Hannah was still 100% top-notch motherly
It
treatment.
really was.
Right?
Like, it really was. Yeah, I mean, there were a couple times where, you know, she was so out of it and having like these like episodes of panic and discomfort and violent aggression, you know, where, you know, I felt like she wasn't her best self.
So they left against medical advice. It's illegal to leave before that. Like they did not let them do this. They did this against, so they did not allow this. So they didn't want the baby to be tracked at all. Like it's weird. It's weird.
As far as like giving Hannah all of the attention that the child needed, but that was uncommon. You know, that was only like a few times. Cause you know, it's like when she's manic and like screaming and pulling her hair out, you know, it's like, there's a baby in the room. Like
when she was in that state, she obviously couldn't be a good mother.
There were a couple times where I was.
So they've already mentioned, I think it was during opening. I forget if the defense or prosecution brought it up, but she did give birth in a hospital, and they left before the birth certificate could be given, because that makes it difficult to establish custody. So Hannah did not have a birth certificate or a record. So it would be difficult, because let's say Chloe did leave and then she wanted to file for custody of her daughter. Her daughter didn't have a birth certificate. And so like there's no legal record. So the courts wouldn't be able to get involved. And I don't know if the court would charge them for like because let me see if it's illegal to have a baby and not get a birth certificate, to have a baby in USA and not get birth certificate. So it is a like I think it's a violation. Like you can't do that. And so like, and it's for everybody's protection. It's for everybody's protection. They showed the body cam. Yes. So on the first day, I covered that. So this is my second video on this case. They are currently on day 3 of testimony. Court TV has the live footage. We are playing day 2 because this was whoa. Today they have played footage from the hospital of her in the hospital. The body cam footage, it is incredibly triggering. They did not show it. They only, you only heard the audio, and the audio is extremely, extremely just troubling. And so, extremely, extremely troubling. All right, we're going to keep it going.
I had to hold the baby because, you know, Z was like, here, hold the baby, you know, like, because Kawani's like becoming aggressive and violent and screaming at the top of her lungs in public places. And, you know,
but nothing that she ever did during those times, nothing that happened while she was in those delusional states or those paranoia states, nothing she did was ever violent, aggressive, or harmful to Lindsay.
No. Very much the opposite. Okay. Still.
All right. Now, when you were in North Carolina, this is, I guess, late October into November, when you got back to North Carolina where you live, right?
Yeah.
Candler. That's it's like a suburb of Asheville, is that right?
Yes.
Peggy, how far does Peggy live from you?
In Candler?
Yes.
South Asheville is like 20 minutes.
Okay, but your house from Peggy's house is same distance, or?
I'm going to fast forward through the Peggy part. It starts to get spicy. They're talking about the dark therapy. He's going to go back to November 25th. Okay, let's play from about here.
So let's talk a little bit more about the group dynamic and some of the stuff that we're practicing. And you talked on this earlier. This was a patriarchal driven dynamic, right?
Right. Well, Z's like the center. Z's like the, he's the man of the house, and
He calls himself a prophet, does he not?
a prophet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Z would use that word to describe himself.
You never heard him call himself a prophet?
I've never heard him call himself a prophet.
You never heard him call himself Prophet Elihu?
No.
No? If he told Detective Cruz that when he was giving her his name in an interview, would that surprise you?
Eliyahu.
Yeah.
Eliyahu's his given middle name. That means Elliot. That's a Hebrew name.
Okay. But if he called himself prophet, that would surprise you.
I mean, that kind of would surprise me that he would use that word.
Do you recall him talking about at times Z or any of these women in the group? Do you recall them talking about the CIA coming after them and out to get them?
Yeah, there was some talk about that.
Okay. Part of the idea of this trust system, as you talked about, was keeping your property away from the government.
Sure.
You have a, let's say, healthy distrust of the government. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
Sure.
You part of the trust idea is that it insulates your property and your income from taxes.
Yes, it does.
Right.
No, that's a fact.
And at the time that you were with this group from May to December, Z didn't have a job, did he?
No.
Nobody else in the family had a job, right? None of the wives had jobs.
No.
Kawani's job was being a mother to this child, right?
That's right.
Do you know what source of income they were living off of?
I know that all of their finances are private through their trust. I mean,
But you don't know how they got
I mean, that's
it. Do you know anything about him submitting loans to the government during COVID, PPP money?
Yeah, I do remember there being some talk about that, but
Setting loans up in the name of
I was surprised there was no pleading the fifth with any of this, because I think some of this, if there haven't been charges for a crime, some of this sounds a little crimey to me. I could be wrong, but it sounds crimey to me.
a religious organization that they got money from.
okay.
I mean, are you aware of that?
I mean, I remember them doing that, yeah. But I mean, I didn't really know all the details about that, but I do remember that. Yeah, I do remember there being them using the trust.
What about also this belief in this group that there are only 168,000 souls that are alive in the world? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, that's not unique to them.
Is that something that you hold as well?
Is my belief what's on debate here? How does this relate back to? I'm trying to understand
Just trying to understand the nature of this group.
Okay, the nature of the group in relation to the death of the child, or
In the relation to what they believed.
okay, what does that have to do with the death of the child?
Mr. Spillars, I get to ask you questions about what I would like to ask you questions about, as long as they're generally relevant.
Okay,
I'm asking you
trying to
questions
understand how
about
this
the
is
nature
generally
of this group.
trying to understand how this is generally relevant.
I'm trying to understand why somebody believes that there's only 168,000 alive people in the world.
I personally believe that there's only 500 million bodies in this place. That the population records are all live.
So trigger warnings for like we're going all the way into some weird portion of just we're going there. Okay, so get but I wanted to play this so we could hear it, because some people might hear this and then believe it. And so right now, young kids can end up going down, or even adults can end up going down these rabbit holes that are not true. Like I saw a conspiracy theory the other day where somebody was trying to interpret something that was posted by a politician and reading into it, meaning like they were just, like, it didn't, like what they were reading into it was not even what the person was saying. Like these conspiracy theories can grow when we don't like accept other information. And like we're going all the way down. Okay, we're gonna keep it going.
And that there are much less people than there are now, and that there are only about 500 million people instead of 7 billion. So it's like when you go to New York City, and there's like this is why I believe that. And so when you go to places like New York or San Francisco, or you go to any major city, really, all you have to do is count. So we're talking about a population demographic, and we're talking about a specific number of people that they say there's 2.5 million people on Manhattan Island.
Mm-hmm.
So all you have to do is go and count the people. You know, all you have to do is drive by and look at the traffic. All you have to do is like do some mathematical equations, which would really lead you to believe that there are significant.
Does he understand that all 2.5 million people are not going to be on the road at the same time? like all those people are not, like, he's not going to be able to drive around and count them. Like, and Kawani is like, I think she's embarrassed. Do you see her? Chloe is over there like, this is embarrassing. And I don't think he realizes just how, dude.
Less people than what they say.
Well,
So
let me put
what
it
does
to
that
you.
have to do with MC?
It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with MC, sir, but I'm going to ask you questions about it for a reason.
Okay.
Let me put it to you this way. You're from the South. You grew up in North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Born and raised there. You're familiar with the idea of college football, right?
Sure.
This weekend, there's going to be a football game between the University of Tennessee and the University of Georgia in Athens, and there's going to be about 96,000 people that fill a stadium. Do you not believe there's 96,000 people that are going to be sitting in that stadium watching a football game?
I mean, if you see them, then they're there. That doesn't mean that there's 7 billion people in the world. The population charts and the demographics and the census records, I think, are a lie, much like a lot of other things. You know, there's a lot of lies in the government, sir. So, yeah, I mean, how much of these lies would you like to expose here in this room? You know, how much fact-based information are we going to discuss?
Well, let's talk a little bit more about some of that in a second. When we get to this idea about the polygamy relationships that he had with these 3 women, there was a 4th wife that he had previously. Is that right?
Yes.
You're aware of her named Gabriella Kuykendall?
Yes.
You ever met Gabriella Kuykendall?
No.
Were you aware that when she had a child with Mr.
Yeah, I'm not objecting anything. Relevant.
Relevance is your objection?
For those of y'all that have been in here from the beginning, this witness is the one that brought up the 4th wife. The prosecution never asked about that 4th wife. He's the one that brought up the 4th wife. He's the one that did this. Like, Jason is the one that mentioned, because I think the prosecution asked about the 3 wives. He's the one that brought up the 4th. But this is good for the defense, I think.
You want to respond?
I think it's relevant, Judge. He talked earlier about the fact that Z had 4 wives, and we're talking about 3 wives here. And I think it's relevant to his understanding of how this group dynamic works.
He's already testified he never met her.
I'm not asking him
All
about it.
right, overrule the objection.
You're aware of who Gabriella Kuykendall is, right?
Yes.
You're aware that she had a child with Z, right?
Yes.
And you're aware that she left him in the middle of the night with the child and basically ran away from him, right?
Okay.
Matter of fact, it took place at the same house where this incident happened on December 8th of 2020. Did you know that?
No.
It happened at Jerry's house.
Okay.
I think the defense knows that this is good for them, because you saw the female lawyer, and I'm assuming why the female lawyer looked over, but the female lawyer is looking over at, I'm gonna make myself small just so we can see it big. Here we go. Look at her look over at the other side, like, This is a win for the defense, I think. A 4th wife left from that house? Like, what? There's no way that Z has never talked about this, has never talked about this person. And if y'all remember, Chloe tried to leave him before. And so I still don't know if she's going to meet the criteria for legal insanity. I still think that there are healthy and safe ways to leave. So hard.
Part of what Z was trying to do with this group was to grow this group, right? He was constantly looking for other women to bring into his group here, right?
Are we not all constantly seeking the companionship of compatible individuals?
I'm asking about Z right now.
Okay.
Wasn't he always trying to talk to other women about bringing them into the group as well?
I mean, sure. Yeah.
Part of what he ultimately wanted to do was to have multiple children with multiple wives as well. Is that right?
That's what I want to.
Okay. He, in fact, right now, Anna
Yeah, there's
just had a child.
There's a beautiful baby in this world that Connie just birthed. Yes, she did.
And Shaylee is pregnant today, right?
Shaylee's about to have one too. Yep.
His mentality is to grow his religious following, right?
You just used the word religion, which I feel like is inappropriate.
Okay, his mentality is to grow his following.
His mentality is to find like-minded individuals to participate with each other, as is mine. And that's what attracts us to each other.
But Mr. Spillars, he and you don't look for like-minded individuals. You and he look for strays, like castaway dogs on the side of the road. Isn't that true?
That's really ridiculous.
Isn't that not what you told him in a phone call with him at the jail just a few days ago?
Is it?
I'm asking you.
I don't know. I mean,
You and he have not talked about treating these women like strays, finding these women that you can bring into your group and treat them like strays. That's not a comment that you made on a phone call?
I don't know, maybe it was made in sarcasm,
Maybe it was.
Like, I don't know. I don't remember every single word of every single thing that I've said. But no,
So that type of sarcasm would be passive aggressive, a truth leaking out in a passive aggressive way. Like I would never refer to my husband as a stray. Like I picked up like that's offensive to me. And if he, I'm sorry, because I just got half of a thought of if my husband ever referred to me that way, like, they are not going to play the call. They have the transcripts, and I think they don't need to. The way he's responding, the jury can probably tell that what the defense attorney is saying is
no, I never treated women in my life like that.
Well, you definitely treat them as submissive individuals, right?
No, I treat them as
women are subservient to you, right?
He can explain his answer.
So yeah. So what's your question again?
I said at first that you treat them as submissive individuals.
No, I don't.
They're subservient to you, though, right?
I think that women should be in a place that is servant. Yeah, sure.
In servitude of the man.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
100%.
Meaning that Benjamin or Z or Brian Joyce, whoever he is, he controls what they do.
No,
and if they don't do what he wants, they can get out, right?
Of course.
Right? He controls what they wear, right?
So you're asking,
yes or no?
You're asking me.
Yes or no?
I don't know the answer to this question.
He controls what they eat, right?
We have already discussed that there is a standard, and this is the same thing that it is with me and women that I've had in my life since then. Since I've had in my entire life, when I've been a vegetarian, women who come into my life they're vegetarian, or you cannot be together.
Right.
Yeah. So you're manipulating this into a control thing when it's just a standard that's set that can be avoided at any time.
If Kawani wanted to go have a hamburger at Wendy's, he'd kick her out of the car, right?
That's really a petty and childish way to describe something. And I mean, your rhetoric is utterly offensive. But no, I mean, why would she want to have what would motivate her to eat an animal? She's the one who's telling me.
Maybe she really didn't believe in all of that.
Maybe. I mean, why not?
You testified earlier that she didn't really get to talk to her parents much, right?
Well, she was raped by her parents when she was younger and was abused by them, according to her.
Where there were times where Z would take her phone from her.
And so he got out a word. Because that he makes allegations, and I don't know that any of that is true. Like I don't know that any of that is true.
She wouldn't have access to her phone to make calls to people.
Not when I was around.
Never saw that.
Never. I never saw him limit them like that. I mean, Shaylee, like they still do things, independently. Like if you want to use that word.
His control extended to you too, right? He told you could never touch her.
Yeah, that's a very common orthodox thing that men do not touch each other's wives, and I respect that.
Well, I'm not suggesting that men should touch each other's wives in any other sexual way. I'm just, a handshake. You couldn't even give her a handshake.
Why would I want to? Why would I want to touch another man's wife?
You started drinking urine because of him.
I started drinking urine because Peggy Schindler told me about it, and I did my research online and did some self-edification. Perhaps you should do the same.
But Peggy Schindler, I'm not drinking my urine, sir. Peggy Schindler got that information from him, right?
Did she?
So this defense lawyer might be one of my favorites. I'm not drinking my urine, sir. He was perfect to go back and forth with him. Like,
I don't know.
I'm asking you.
Told me about it. I don't know.
She knew him.
Yeah, I mean, so what? Like, so there's like millions of people who drink their urine. There's like forums online with, tons of individuals, and this has become way more mainstream. And now there's like all kinds. Like I say, I mentioned Troy Casey, and I'd like to drop it. And yeah, surviving on their urine.
Do you still maintain contact with Z?
Sure do.
Day-to-day contact?
Sure do.
You've called him probably 10 times since you've been in the jail here in Cherokee County, right?
Sure have.
You've talked to him, I guess, beginning in August or September, even through today, about the mental state that you saw from Kwani at that time.
Totally.
And your belief is, and you continue to tell him that your belief is that she was insane. I'm not making it the legal standard of that, but you felt like she was insane.
I mean, yes, I do. I mean, call it insane, call it whatever you want. It's like, this woman was like outside of her ability to discern what was even happening, and her behavior was erratic and out of character. And she would go in and out of these phases. And yeah, I would qualify that as insane from my perspective. I've never seen anything so severe in my life.
Okay. Now, let me back you up to this incident in November in Nashville with Miss Sandra Torres.
Let's do it.
And I know your testimony from what you told Ms. Gropper is that you believe Ms. Torres was the instigator of an aggressive, violent act here, right?
Most definitely.
Okay. You did acknowledge that you were the one that got arrested
Yeah.
based on that incident, right?
Yeah, she was the one who called the cops.
Yeah. And you left, right, before the cops got there.
Yeah, before I got shot by a woman who was threatening me with gun violence.
You could have stuck around and talked to the cops about that, though, right?
So you're saying that I should have put myself in harm's way?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you drove a mile up the road and called the cops yourself. You didn't do that either, did you?
No, I didn't.
You left. Before you left, Z had put Chloe in the car with the baby and took off, right?
Kwani got in the car by her own free will. And it was actually her that insinuated that they needed to leave,
Okay.
like I said earlier, because she could see the...
But, sir, Ms. Torres called the police because she believed there was an issue going on there, right?
Ms. Torres called the police because, I mean, I don't know why she did. I mean,
She didn't have anything to do with you all.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's so bizarre that someone would go so far out of the way, especially like I say, when I was carrying Kwani across the road, one of the individuals who lived in the apartment complex was walked out, and she walked by us and asked if we needed any help. And I said, no, we don't.
So maybe that lady just didn't want to involve herself with what was going on with you, right?
Or maybe that's probably what a normal person would do if they, saw some woman having a panic attack and all of the individuals around her trying to help.
Well, calling the police is not necessarily calling to get somebody in trouble. As you know, sir, you called the police yourself on December 8th because you knew there was a problem.
That's more like an emergency medical.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what calling 911 does. It gets law enforcement, it gets medical personnel, it gets EMS people out there to determine what the issue is, right?
Mhm.
And if they believe that Kwani was having a medical emergency that needed to get attention, they could take her to the hospital. They could take her to see a doctor, right?
Sure.
You didn't want that to happen.
I don't think that my desire has any reflection on the
Z didn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
He was the one directing that they get Chloe in the car and get out of there, right?
Actually, like I said, it was Kwani that initiated the sequence for them.
She was telling Miss Torres to call the police.
No,
She was telling Miss Torres to call her parents.
She was telling Ms. Torres that she needed to call her parents. And then Ms. Torres began behaving erratically, like I said, and began behaving belligerently and aggressively and threatening us.
When you
And
left,
so then Kwani said that, she initiated the sequence for them to leave. She could see that this woman was like this drunken. You could smell the alcohol on her, that she was just this.
I don't know that any of that is true. I think this is what he says to make his actions, because we'll hear in a second.
Drunken
Anything he does, he minimizes big time.
individual who wanted to involve herself and make probably so bored with her own life or whatever that she wanted to cause drama and involve herself in somebody else's business that had nothing to do with her.
you believe that Miss Torres involved herself in someone else's situation so she
Yes.
could get attacked by you and receive a broken eye socket?
Yeah.
Sir, this is a picture that's dated November 25th of 2020.
Okay.
That's a picture that Miss Torres sent to us that
Okay.
she took of herself that day.
Continue to object to publishing evidence that has not been admitted.
I'm not admitting it yet,
It's
Judge.
being published to the jury. It's not been identified with an exhibit number. It's not been admitted.
So I just told you the story of what happened. And, that was never brought to trial. So your assumption,
Yeah, it was never brought to trial, sir, because you pled guilty to that.
I was never brought to trial because they would never give me a trial. I sat Yeah, that's very much what happened. I mean, you can make assumptions, and
Sir, I'm not making assumptions.
you are. Making
I've seen the
assumptions.
documentation of your sentence that you received for that case out of North Carolina.
Yeah, I know.
It
Like I
says you
said.
pled.
So his idea of them not giving him a trial might have been him having to wait in jail for a period of time before getting a trial date. Like, I don't.
Guilty to assaulting and inflicting serious injury as a misdemeanor on Mrs. Torres.
Pursuant to Alfred law.
No, it actually doesn't say pursuant to Alfred law. That box isn't checked at all. It
Okay.
says you pled guilty.
Then that's misinformation. You could pull up the court records.
That's who I got it from.
Well, then you should pull up the court records from August 29th, 2023.
That's the date that you pled guilty.
Yeah, I mean, it says, the judge said very clearly before the court that it was pursuant to Alfred law. So perhaps you have some kind of.
So you're saying there's a mistake in the document?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
From
You
what I
understand an offered plea is still a plea of guilty though, right?
Yeah, but the reason why I pled guilty is because they were actually, so they didn't give me they were refusing to give me bond dates. They were refusing to give me court dates. They were refusing to give me a trial.
They refused to give you those things because you had violated your bond before. Is that right?
Yeah, I was actually framed by and false evidence was submitted against me by Buncombe County.
Really?
Absolutely.
Have you initiated a civil lawsuit against them for them?
Not yet, but I have spoken with some civil rights attorneys, and I have not initiated that sequence yet, but I have spoken with several attorneys.
And sir, you're currently incarcerated by the federal government, right?
Yes, I am.
For threatening a man online, right?
That's an allegation, which
Yeah, I understand it's an allegation. You haven't been convicted of anything and you stand absolutely innocent until proven guilty.
then I think that we should, not talk about that.
I'm not going to talk to you about it. I'm not going to ask you what you did. I'm not going to ask you who it is. I'm not going to ask you any of those questions, but you are currently charged with that, right?
I've currently been charged with a crime.
14 counts of crimes, correct?
Is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Counts 1 through 14
Okay.
for communicating threats to kill someone.
Yeah, like I say, that's still.
That's not the first time you've been charged with communicating threats to kill somebody either, is it?
Can you specifically?
I can't.
No, it's not. I've never actually threatened to kill someone.
Kylie Cross,
Kylie Cross.
the girl you got the CBD from.
Kylie Cross, I had a sexual relationship with her, and I told her that, and she stole $1,600 out of my dress.
I'm going to let it play and then I'm going to pause it. So, and we're going to talk about gaslighting.
Drawer, and I told her that if she ever came back to my house, that I was going to end her.
So this was his explanation for why he didn't do the thing. Because maybe it's a better example of deny. How is he the victim? Like now people shouldn't steal money from you, but you can't say you're going to end them. And this is his explanation of him not threatening to unalive her. Like this is his reason that that's not true. Like that's a crime. If you do this, that's a crime. Like he's trying to tell us this isn't a crime, but like that's a crime. Even my camera is confused. That's a crime. Okay.
I didn't say I was going to kill her.
That's what she thought you said, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
this
why
is
she
like-
went to the police and had you arrested.
Yeah.
That's why you were charged with threatening her.
I probably should have taken that one to trial because I feel like I would have won.
That's two, I guess. You should have taken a trial, but you didn't. You pled guilty to that one too.
Yeah.
You got probation and 45 days in jail on that case too, right, sir?
It was actually, I'm still trying to figure out what this has to do with Hannah and what your.
It has to do with you.
Okay. And?
I get to ask you questions and it has to do with you.
Okay.
But that's what you did. You threatened her and you spent time in jail because you pled guilty in that case.
I mean, a lot of the circumstances in my life, if I really would have just called the cops, and I should have called the cops on Kylie Cross when I caught her stealing $1,600 out of my drawer, but I couldn't really prove that. And like I say, I mean,
maybe it didn't
just as you're proving right now that there's like a real sinister nature by your tone and your, I mean, we're here to talk about a baby and all you seem to want to be is obsessed with me. So it's like, I mean, I'm
not obsessed with you, sir.
Then stop.
not laughing because it's funny, okay? Like this is this is how is this real life? Like how is this real life? Like like I was like so people at the beginning, so some people didn't see this. Sir, I'm not obsessed with you. You are if you would just answer the questions, we could have moved on by now. We could have moved on. He not only is wearing orange, he is also shackled. He has handcuffs. He is fully shackled. Like this is okay. Let's press play.
Asking me questions about myself, and let's talk about the crime that happened.
I'm asking you about sinister things because you've committed sinister acts.
Saying
And I'm asking you those things
saying
because of how
something-
they have affected this young lady as well.
saying and doing these all happened after this incident with Coin. All of these circumstances happened after this incident with Coin.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
So do you want to like maybe give some? Maybe we should talk about the trauma that I experienced and how that has affected me, and
Like he's blaming his current negative behavior and situation on the trauma of go to therapy. Go to therapy. Do not do crimes.
what has led to me being irate with people. And like I say, the Sandra Torres thing, I'm happy to talk about that because I want that. I plan to appeal that to the Superior Court of North Carolina. And I've already spoken to civil rights attorneys about the false evidence that was submitted against me in Buncombe County.
So you're testifying.
So little Woody was actually like endearing. Like little Woody was like I was like, oh, like now little Woody has probably like he's probably done some crimes. Like he's caught up in like a not so great situation. And little Woody says, I lie. Like I will say anything to not go to jail. Little Woody, like he told me to tell the truth. I didn't write that. Like whatever you're reading, they wrote that. I didn't type that. Like little Woody was hilarious. If you are this traumatized, sir, go to therapy. Do more of that dark thing. Like do not do crimes. It just seems so easy. Thank you. I did the red for fall. It should be blonde again by like April or May. So one day y'all will log in and it will be blonde again. But we're going red for the fall. I had time and hair dye. If you follow me over on Instagram, I posted a picture of my curls there. And then over on TikTok, I'm ranting about stuff. And so, but yeah. I might be more active over there now, but we'll see.
Fine. Your testimony earlier was that you never struck Sandra Torres in the eye.
No, I didn't. And there's like some evidence that would prove that in the motion of discovery.
So how did she get the black eye that she says she got in those photographs?
Who knows? Like, there was like...
I can show you other photographs from her of her black eye that developed over the next 3 days. Would you like to see those?
She went to the hospital and her hospital visit was 4 hours after the event. Maybe it was her son, the one who came and slashed tires. Maybe she had her son punch her in the face.
She might have, but we don't get to know that, sir, because you pled guilty to assaulting her.
Well,
you pled guilty to doing exactly what she says you did to her, which is punching her in the eye.
I had been held for 22 months, and I felt that I had a really strong civil rights case, and that's only been a year ago. I've already spoken to civil rights attorneys, so I did. I wanted to. I pled guilty pursuant to Alfred law because I wanted to stop being oppressively persecuted by the Buncombe County government and get out so I could.
You were in jail a lot of that time because you violated your probation in your case with Kylie Cross as well, right?
No, that was not the case with Kylie Cross.
You were on probation for that case from 2022.
No, I was not. That's so I had actually become off probation, and it wasn't a violation of probation that. Can I have some more of this water? It wasn't a violation of probation that.
So, okay, once again, like that's what gave me like Sarah Boone vibes. Like now he's probably thirsty because like when you're like talking this much, like he probably is thirsty. He probably is. When you're stressed, your throat gets dry. But oh my gosh.
Got me reincarcerated on the 5th of April, 2023, after they had held me for 8 months on 24-hour house arrest. So I did 10 months in jail. I finally made bond. and they held me for 8 months. And I'm happy to talk about this. This is like a really good venue. I appreciate being able to speak this out before a court, because this is all factual information that's going to come out later. And yeah, so after they held me for 8 months on 24-hour house arrest, there was a document submitted to.
Girl, never go back. Okay, Chloe? Chloe, look at me. Chloe, never ever go back. Okay? This is not safe. Like this guy's picture is probably in like by red flag. I have a red flag over there, but will my camera follow? Okay, I'm gonna go get my red flag. Y'all can listen to him for a second. I'm gonna
to
go
the
get it.
court by a DA, a specific DA that was targeting me, named Amy Laura Broughton, and there was false evidence submitted to the court. She brought this photo of a Facebook post that she said that I made, but it was right there on my, it was not on my Facebook.
Uh-oh. That
Or did I make this post? And so, like I say, there was false evidence submitted to the court in order to persecute me and frame me. And that's the, and I've already, like I say, I've already spoken to several civil rights attorneys about this, and they say they have a very strong case. So, you know, we're moving forward with that in due diligence. And I absolutely have every intention of appealing that guilty plea to the Superior Court of North Carolina and making sure that I get a fair trial. Because that's the whole thing. They didn't want it. That's why they held me for so long, and they were refusing to give me court dates even by law. But like I say, you know, and so like I say, I pled guilty to that to end my incarceration. But yeah, I came here today to tell my experience with Kawani and give an account to my observation of her and her mental health decline. And I'll say it again, that I do feel like not guilty by reason of insanity would be the correct call from my unprofessional perspective. Perhaps there's something, you know, I just don't feel like I say, she would never do that to her baby. And this was.
And to me, the defense was kind of discrediting him too. And I don't know if that will backfire because what he's saying could be good for the defense, but it shouldn't be coming out of him. It shouldn't come out of him though. Like, oh, good gosh.
It's just like, she was like not herself when she did that. And I wanted to know that I care about her and I forgive her and I love her very much. And that's it.
Any redirect?
Just briefly. Mr. Spillars, you indicated that you had had multiple conversations with her after she was arrested for murdering Hannah, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And when she called Z from jail.
Okay. And so you indicated the nature of those was communicating how much you all love her and that you forgive her for what she did.
Yes.
Did she ever tell you why she killed Hannah?
No, I don't think she ever really did. I mean, she spoke to Z about it. I remember, and that's why I'm giving you secondhand information here.
Don't do that. I'm asking, did she ever tell, when you talked to her, did she ever tell you?
I don't remember her ever saying anything about that.
Okay. Did she ever tell you that she told the police that she killed Hannah because she just wanted to be with her baby and her husband, but he refused?
What do you mean?
Did she ever tell you that that's what she told the police? That she just wanted to be with him and Hannah, but he refused?
Oh, no way.
Okay. You
No,
never heard that before?
nothing like that.
Okay.
No, I could tell you something, but I don't know.
With the prosecution asking that question, I wonder if they have text messages or some digital evidence that might say that, or if they have transcripts from phone calls or something that might say something to the effect of that.
I mean,
Did she ever tell you that she told doctors that she killed Hannah because she thought it was the only way for her and Hannah to be able to escape the situation?
no, definitely not.
You've never heard that before?
No.
Nothing.
Any further cross-examination? All right.
Poor judge. Whew. All right. Good gosh. All right. And so they had a psychiatrist, Dr. Let me hear him say it. Dr. I can't say it. His first name is Asif, I believe. And let's see. He is a psychiatrist. I want to hear him say his name. They might have cut it off. Maybe they don't have it. Let's go. Oops. Nope, I went too far. but it's Dr. Asif, and it's Choudhary. He is a psychiatrist, and some of the writings that Hannah did are going to come in. And she had a trach. She had a tracheot, which is like that's. I've seen somebody on one of those, and it was because she had serious injuries. She had critical wounds. She harmed herself significantly. So we're just going to listen to a little bit of this, and that will be it for today.
And I'm going to states 120 through 127, which are just excerpts from the complete record that has already been admitted by business record certification.
Any objection?
Yes, I will write.
This is the psychiatrist that met with her while she was in the right after the incident. Okay. So this is the one that she met with right after. Let's continue.
Reference them as we go. All right, so states
All right.
120 through 127.
Are admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right.
And the opinions or what a medical professional saw immediately following the incident can be important to the jury, because what somebody tells an evaluator 2, 3, 4 years later talking about the incident, like sometimes a jury, what the person says right after can be really important. So
Dr. Choudhary. I first want to Is your screen on? Can you see what I'm doing on that screen?
No, it's blank.
Not on. Is there a way to turn this? What's it? 20. All right. Let me see. All right, Doctor, I'm going to hand you a physical copy so you can see what is up on the screen.
Sure, thank you.
What is states 120?
Excuse me.
What is depicted in this exhibit?
So this is my initial consult note.
All right, and it says there, here at the top, we have Chloe Alexis Driver, Kenna Stone, and the dates of her hospitalization admit date. But when we scroll down, it says patient name Norland to Norland. And when you go into history, present illness, it says 100 years old. Why is that designation in there?
So that's more of a hospital system kind of policy there, where if they have a trauma patient, they'll put a random name and a birthday or the age if they don't know, for
Okay.
multiple reasons.
All right, so when you have a patient that has experienced some type of trauma, they just put a random name and
Yeah.
age designation rather than their actual identity?
Yeah, and they change that usually a few days in.
Okay.
They'll update it.
All right. And on this particular states 120, it indicates that she was admitted on December the 8th and that your consultation date in this record was December the 9th. Was this the first time that you had attempted to evaluate her?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you do after being called upon on the 9th to attempt to evaluate Ms. Driver?
So upon any consult, we end up going to go see the patient and then obtain like collateral information and then information from the primary team, whatever the information that they have.
Okay. It indicates in states 120 that the patient's chart was reviewed, but patient is currently sedated, and that patient was unable to be interviewed at this time. On this date, the 9th, was all of the information that you obtained?
So the incident was on the 8th, and this is on the 9th. So this is the day after.
From her record and from other medical staff?
Yes.
Okay. Is part of your system in reviewing the chart for psychiatric purposes to review toxicology results?
Yes.
Okay, and if you flip to, I think, the 4th page and say,
I wonder if this is for potential DV survivors. I've never heard of a hospital with this policy, where if somebody has experienced a trauma, that they're not admitted under their real name and under their real age. I have never heard of this. And this was self-inflicted for her, but they couldn't assess if she was safe, like what was going on with the relationships. And I have never heard of a policy like this. I like it because if somebody is a victim, it allows the hospital to protect the individual for a period of time while an assessment is made.
State's Exhibit 120. What can you tell the jury about her tox and lab results from December the 8th when she was admitted?
Nothing was detected there.
Okay. And what are you testing for in those tox results? Is that a pretty broad spectrum of?
Yeah, usually when they come in from the trauma standpoint, this is done by the primary team, so to rule out if there are any other substances on board or anything that needs to be addressed. So those are typically done, and different tox screens are ran usually, but it just depends on what the ordering provider is actually running at that time.
Okay. And so this panel we see is everything from cocaine, opiates, THC, and nothing was detected in her system. Is that right?
That's correct.
Why is that relevant to you in doing your psychiatric assessment?
Because substances there can cloud our judgment and can play a role in our mental health there, and can also lead on to other symptoms of like hallucinations, psychosis, and delusions. And the other factor is if they are positive for certain things, we want to make sure that they don't go through withdrawals or life-threatening withdrawals. So our management can also change based off of that.
Okay. All right. I want to next go to State's Exhibit 121 and 122. Did you look? Yes, I'm sorry. State's 121 starts on page 51 of the medical record. All right. Dr. Chowdhury, what was the date of your next evaluation of Ms. Driver?
And so based off of this 12/10,
Okay. So this was 2 days after she was admitted?
yes.
All right. And you put in there chief complaint. How do you designate a chief complaint, and why is that in quotes?
So typically the chief complaint we get is the patient's own words on why they're here, or if they requested to see us, what are the reasons why? And so the quotes are what the patient has said.
Okay. And this says, quote, I wasn't supposed to make it. Would that be something that came directly from Ms. Driver?
Yes.
And on this date, the 10th, were you following up from your inability to evaluate her on the 9th, or did she request to see psychiatry?
No, we typically continue on, but yeah, this would be a continuation of the initial consult. Yeah.
Okay. From her medical team.
Yes.
Is that standard for anybody that had a suicide attempt?
Yes.
And then when we look further in the chart, it says the patient was interviewed and chart was reviewed, patient unable to speak, but is able to mouth answers, communicated with patient via clipboard at bedside. What can you tell the jury about what her condition was in terms of her ability to communicate?
So she was not able to actually verbally communicate during the interview there, but she was writing and mouthing her answers.
Okay. And in this, on the second line of the subjective area, you wrote the patient was linear and was able to provide details on the events that took place prior to being hospitalized. What does it mean when you state the patient was linear?
So it's that her thought process was more focused and kind of orderly there. So that's important if, collecting the history.
Okay. And what was sort of your strategy or purpose in assessing her at this stage? What was it that you were trying to determine?
So the safety and addressing any mood component as well. So in an individual, we look at disposition as well after a suicide attempt, if they need to go inpatient or where they would be going next. And so we look at all areas and looking at medication management if it's indicated as well.
Okay. This summary where it starts with she reports being in a relationship with a male individual for 4 years. Is this summary, are these your words summarizing what information she gave you, or are these her words?
So these were basically a summary of her words. So kind of incorporating it all into some, a format that could be understood and kind of makes sense there.
Okay. And in the initial paragraph, it says patient via clipboard at bedside. Was she able to sort of coherently and logically respond to your questions in writing?
Yes.
Okay.
So the reason the prosecution is asking these questions, was she logical and coherent? Because this is 2 days after the incident. Now, a person, and so she's assessed 2 days after by psychiatry. Is she logical and coherent? And he's saying yes, based on like how they can assess her.
And did you collect those writings and make them a part of her official medical record?
The nursing did, I believe.
Nursing did.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that what is depicted in State's Exhibit 122?
Yes, I believe so.
Her handwritten responses?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to go through the things that she wrote. You've told us that you kind of summarized the things that she wrote here. What from your summary did she tell you was the motivation for her killing her daughter?
It was to get out of the relationship that she felt the only way out was taking her life or taking the baby's life and her life.
Okay. All right. I want to go to her responses.
That is going to be important because this is what she said right after. And she might be saying something different now, but that is what she said immediately after the incident. And legally, when you claim insanity, all these records automatically come in. Any past mental health records, if she's received counseling in the jail, all of those mental health records can come in because she's claiming insanity.
In States Exhibit 22, Mr. Hathaway, this is page 1262 in the record. All right. So when you were communicating with her, were you verbally asking her a question and then she was writing the answer?
Yes.
Okay. So when we look at States Exhibit 122, it is multiple pages of writing. Did you document anywhere what question you had asked that prompted these answers?
I wish, so knowing that this was going to be forensic, because he's going to give an answer that, but he's not forensic. He's an ER psychiatrist, which isn't like he's very qualified. Anytime I have court cases or clients that are court involved, if I'm asking them about like, so if I'm working with a child that's in DSS custody, I document that I asked them, how did you come into care? And I document their response. Like I document the things I ask because it can be how a question is asked can be important. So
Typically it's all kind of within the narrative of the subjective. So we don't usually put like this question and then the answer tied to it there, but it's usually all kind of asked together.
Okay. So for example, if we look here at page 1264, there's a writing that says, do you know if I'm going straight to prison or leaving here first? Can you tell from your record whether that would have been in response to a question or if that was a spontaneous statement?
So could you repeat the question there?
Sure. There's a lot of writing on these pages that doesn't all connect. It's not a complete narrative.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to establish for the jury and help them understand is, were these writings in response to a question that you asked, or was she just wanting to tell you things?
I believe this was a question that she asked.
This was a question that she asked.
Yeah.
Would you ever introduce the concept of prison or incarceration to a patient you were evaluating?
No.
Okay. And why not?
Because, well, there's no therapeutic benefit of, saying that, hey, are you going to prison or do you know if you're going to jail? It's more of us deciding what the safest place for the patient to be. And if, say, for example, jail or anything like this wasn't in question, we'd be looking at either inpatient hospitalization if the patient is acutely in danger to themselves or others there. So we don't ever introduce, if they're discussing jail or things like that, there's no therapeutic benefit there.
Okay. So this would have been something that she was concerned about at that moment that she just asked of you.
Yeah, and it's quite common for a patient to ask, or where am I going next? Or when am I getting out of here in the hospital settings?
Okay. All right. I'm going to go up a little bit more. There's a statement here that says, what do you mean prescribe? Would that be in response to something that you asked her?
Yeah, so typically we ask like past psychiatric history if we've.
So these were the responses. And I think he probably asked her, have you ever been prescribed any medications? What do you mean prescribe? And so she's not on any And then he asked her about drug use. And so she said 8th grade for fun once. I think that was in reference to substances. They asked about like, are you consenting to medications? And she said, we both disagree with pharmaceuticals. And the question, and so her response was, no, he was against drugs, only sometimes considered LSD, shrooms, which that did not come up at all. I don't even know if that comes up. And then, do you know if I'm going straight to prison or, yes. And so those were some of those responses. I need to get ready for my next appointment. I so appreciate you all. I enjoy covering cases, and this is just a very, very sad case. Today's coverage, I believe, they've looked at some videos, and and all of those things. Like it is so hard, so difficult. This is a difficult case. I will continue to help break down some of the mental health side of this. So if there are questions, please put that in the regular comments. This chat is going to because I think the court doesn't want live chat available for restream, especially if the jury, because I think they're trying to really protect, but like the jury shouldn't see any of this anyway, but the court seemed to have very strong views about comments and live chat. And this was from yesterday. This was not even from today. I was nervous about, because there's a court order about broadcasting some of this. So I want to make sure that I'm in compliance with that court order. I saw Law and Crime had their had their comments open. So I'm okay with leaving the comment section, but I will make the live chat disappear probably by like 4 p.m. today. But I so appreciate you all. I had to break this down, like, because it was just stuck in my head. So the first testimony, all that we covered, I have resources. If somebody has a history of being involved with high demand groups, if any of this was triggering, I have resources down in the comments. And I really try. So I only talk about the things if it can be educational. Okay. So I won't just talk about it just for us to sit and watch it, except for if it's live. If I can cover live verdicts or if I can cover live court, then sometimes we will do that. But going back and taking a look at yesterday's testimony was just, so I will see y'all soon. Have a good one. Bye.